Chapter 47:20. Yes, this concubine understands. Facing Princess Xixia, Princess Qingqing maintained a cold expression, not giving her any face. However, seeing the lightning Taoist, a smile appeared on Princess Qingqing's face, and her figure stopped. Fellow Taoist lightning, Xiaohua said, if you keep Princess Qingqing, then you can't return to the Kunlun immortal grounds to cultivate. Have you made your decision? No. Princess Qingqing hurriedly said, I can't delay lightning Taoist cultivation. I'll stay in Xiao country. Since when is it your turn to decide this daddy's matters? Lightning Taoist glared at Princess Qingqing. Princess Qingqing immediately lowered her head, like a wronged wife, not daring to say anything. Lightning Taoist said to Xiaohua, I have been thinking of something recently, so I won't cultivate for now. Let's go to the Western Sea to kill the mayflies. Looking at the Thunderbolt Immortal, who was annoyed at being disturbed just a moment ago, now having such a change in attitude, Xiaohua smiled and nodded. Sure. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing quietly flew over, her face pale. The scene just now had scared her to death. Don't call me princess anymore. Princess Qingqing glanced at Princess Xixia and said, I'm no longer a princess, call me young miss or Qingqing. Yes, young miss. Yu Xiaojing replied in a low voice. At this moment in the sky above Xiao country, countless mayflies rushed out from the cracks in the void that appeared from time to time. They were like locusts that were commonly seen in the countryside as they rushed towards the ground. The citizens of the Xiao Empire had long sensed the danger, but they did not wait for death. Instead, they called out to Zhenren Xiao, as if they were praying for protection. Then they rushed out from various houses and brought the firewood, grass, and other things to the fields. As they lit these things up, they waved their wooden sticks, clothes, and other things, blocking the mayflies just like how they hunted and drove away locusts in the past. Seeing such a familiar scene, Xiaohua couldn't help sighing. The prayers of millions of Xiao country's citizens made him feel a warm current flowing to the crystal-like godhead behind his head. What adorable citizens! Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror, preparing to release more Fortune Gate disciples. However, Princess Xixia only faintly smiled, as if she was provoking Princess Qingqing. She arrogantly said to Xiaohua, Xiaohua, why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? Let's see what I can do. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He nodded and said with a smile, I'd like to see what Your Highness is capable of. Hearing Xiaohua call her Your Highness the Princess, which was the complete opposite of what Princess Qingqing had just said, Princess Xixia faintly smiled. Raising her hand, she took out the Xianyuan water control flag. As she gently waved it, countless water-green jade talismans flew down like dandelions. In an instant, they covered 1,000 miles of the Xiao Empire's territory. And in that area, there were several inches of mayflies that were extremely rampant. Good. Seeing that Ying Luo had separated the mayfly from where it landed, the mayfly first flew around like a headless fly before lunging at Ying Luo in a frenzy. It actually swallowed the light that even the Son of Heaven's sword and the Heaven and Earth pagoda could not break through. Xiaohua had just praised it when his expression changed slightly. The mayfly's power was not beyond his expectations. Humph. At the side, Qingqing coldly snorted and said, the innate 5-element flag is only a Shut up. The Thunderbolt Immortal roared, did I let you speak? Qingqing faintly smiled and did not speak again. Looking at that smile, even if the Thunderbolt Immortal scolded her, he was still talking to her. This made her really happy. On the other hand, Yu Xiaojing, who was watching from the side, felt that it was not worth it for Qingqing. It's all right. Princess Xixia looked at Xiaohua's worry and laughed softly. Ying Luo is not an appearance. It's not the foundation of the Xianyuan water control flag. These mayflies can't hurt me. Xiaohua pinched his chin and said thoughtfully, what I'm worried about is not the Xianyuan water control flag. After all, this is the most powerful innate spiritual treasure I've ever seen. What I'm worried about is whether the mayfly that swallowed this Ying Luo will advance again. Moreover, the area that this Xianyuan water control flag can protect is still too small. Princess Xixia embarrassedly shook her head. My cultivation is still shallow. This is all I can do. If I want to protect the entire Xiao Empire, I still need to cultivate for many years. Xiaohua smiled and said, You've already done very well. With this Xianyuan water control flag, I believe. Even if a 9th grade mayfly comes, you won't be harmed. Princess Zixia urged her true chi to investigate and exclaimed, Darling Xiao, these mayflies are really swallowing the Yingluo. And they're doing it very quickly. Don't Confucian cultivators often say that there's strength in numbers? Xiao Hua smiled and said, These mayflies are much more numerous than ordinary humans. Although their strength is minuscule, when gathered together, they can't be underestimated. This is the strongest defensive treasure of the human race. If you're not careful, I'm afraid that they'll break through it. I understand. Princess Zixia urged the Xianyuan water control flag. Layers of Yingluo flowed like water waves, driving away all the mayflies from the Yingluo. When the mayflies swooped down to swallow again, they actually couldn't do it. Good. Seeing Princess Zixia's intelligence, Xiao Hua couldn't help but clap his hands and say, People often say that running water never rots, and it seems to be true. Hearing Xiao Hua's praise, Princess Zixia somewhat proudly glanced at Qing Qing. However, Qing Qing's heart wasn't on Princess Zixia's side at all. Instead, she lowered her head and stole glances at the Thunderbolt Immortal, as if he was the only person in her world. Could it be? I was really wrong? Princess Zixia couldn't help but feel apologetic in her heart. Putting aside Princess Zixia's guilt, Xiao Hua looked at the already stable situation and raised his hand to take the Kunlun mirror in his hand. As the light trembled, the divine power puppet Little Gold flew out. As soon as Little Gold came out, a dragon-shaped phantom rushed into the sky, and even a bit of the world-destroying mayfly's aura appeared. Little Gold, go. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Kill a few mayflies. Yes, master. Little Gold's voice appeared in Xiao Hua's mind. Then with a flash of golden light, it rushed into the swarm of insects. Little Gold was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. After it flew in, it waved its antennae as if it had seen something, cutting the mayflies in two. It was very brave and fierce. Unfortunately, after a short while, Xiao Hua frowned again, because the mayflies that were cut in two by Little Gold quickly turned back into two low-level mayflies, and they didn't seem to be killed. In other words, Little Gold couldn't really kill the mayflies. Come back. Little Gold. Xiao Hua called out in his heart, and he was quite disappointed, because in Xiao Hua's memory, Little Gold had swallowed Dragon Siren and also swallowed the essence of mayflies, and because of this it had mutated. If even it couldn't kill the mayflies, then the other spiritual pets wouldn't be able to either. After Little Gold returned to the space, Xiao Hua took out the Ice Worm King. The mayflies that Xiao Hua had encountered before were all extremely powerful, and he hadn't had the chance to test them out one by one. Now was the perfect time to test out Princess Zixia's Xianyuan water control flag, as well as these spiritual pets that had been separated by yin and yang. As soon as the Ice Worm King appeared, it immediately sealed the space within a radius of several hundred feet. Unfortunately, other than the thumb-sized mayfly that exploded, the other mayflies all rushed to devour the frozen space, and their size even increased. Seeing that his two most powerful spiritual pets were useless, Xiao Hua was a little disappointed. I'm afraid it won't work. Xiao Hua put the Ice Worm King into the space, and then let out Little Thunder and Little Silver. Unfortunately, as soon as Little Silver came out of the space, its nose sniffed the air, and its fat body immediately curled up into a ball, and it didn't go forward at all. Although Little Thunder was powerful with every movement it made, it was still inferior to Xiao Hua's Hand of Lightning, and naturally couldn't kill the mayflies. Forget it. Xiao Hua was completely disheartened. In his heart, he already somewhat understood that these mayflies were from the previous generation. Even if one of his spirit pets had the ability to restrain them, it was still impossible for it to exterminate hundreds of millions of mayflies. After putting away Little Thunder and Little Silver, Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then once again took out the spirit grasses from the spirit world, some spirit wood from the chaos divine world, and other things from other spaces to try. Unfortunately, all of his attempts failed one after another. Nothing could stop that black hole that could kill mayflies and devour everything. In the end, Xiao Hua simply stopped trying and stood in the air, watching over the situation. With Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt Master overseeing the situation, and with the support of Shunhua Mainland's Fortune Gates disciples, The mayflies besieging the Shao country were gradually eliminated. Looking at the mayflies throwing themselves at the ground and the seeds that had already been planted, Xiaohua couldn't help but smile wryly. He clearly knew that his grain seeds must have attracted the attention of the mayflies. Unfortunately, Xiaohua no longer had the chance to regret. If he didn't have these seeds in the past, the Shao country and the burial immortal mainland's common people would have starved to death. Now, the seeds had spread all over the burial immortal mainland, and they had become the targets of the mayflies. Several days later, the mayflies were finally exterminated. Fujiwen's face was full of shame as he saluted Xiaohua, saying that he had failed Xiaohua's trust. Xiaohua comforted him with a smile. In the face of a great calamity, it was enough to protect the Shao country's common people's lives. What burden was there to speak of? Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and asked the Thunderbolt Master to recall the Shenhua mainland's Fortune Gates disciples into the space. He then said to Fujiwen, "What do the Shao country's people say about leaving?" At the mention of this matter, Fujiwen answered with a wry smile, "Master, people often say that it's hard to leave one's homeland, and it's true. This disciple has already sent many people to spread the benefits of the Kunlun paradise. But most of them feel that the Shao country is the paradise of the burial immortal mainland, and are unwilling to leave. Moreover, this disciple has also told them how powerful the strange insects are, but they believe that with Master's protection, they will definitely be able to exterminate the strange insects." AI blind trust. Xiaohua suddenly felt the burden on his shoulders become heavier, and he sighed. "Xiaohua, this matter is your fault," Qingqing suddenly said from afar. "Shut up." Before she could finish, the Thunderbolt Master angrily said, "I didn't ask you to speak." Xiaohua was stunned and asked curiously, "What did I do wrong?" Qingqing looked at the Thunderbolt Master, not daring to speak. "Speak." The Thunderbolt Master simply spat out a word. "Yes," Qingqing hurriedly said. "The Shao country is named after your surname, and these people are also your people. You didn't explain the situation clearly to them, but let your disciple." "What is this?" This kind of matter of showing one's face and winning over people's hearts, anyone would run to the front. Even His Majesty the Immortal Emperor would not be an exception. You, on the other hand, only let your disciple do it. Whether or not your disciple was sent by you, whether or not he used your name, those people will know. They only know your name devoutly. Moreover, what is the Kunlun paradise? It is useless to just talk about it. These vulgar people will not understand. You have to take out the real situation of the Kunlun paradise for them to see, even if it is an illusion. And you are right. Xiaohua nodded. This Xiao has learned. What are you talking about? Princess Zixia said unhappily, "What do you know?" Darling Xiao first went to the Jade Pool gathering, then went to Dragon Island, Great Sage Hall and Lane Temple. For the sake of the life and death of the billions of people in the 3 continents, how could he have time to come to the Shao country? Of course I don't know what Taoist Xiao is talking about these days. When Qingqing heard that Xiaohua actually went back and forth to several holy lands, her heart was also shocked, and her respect for him gradually grew. However, she still insisted, "I am just talking about the facts." Qingqing's temper was like this. She could lower her proud head for a man, for an unprecedented love, and give up her noble life, but she could not suddenly change. Princess Zixia naturally understood. Although her tolerance was not as broad as Xiaohua's, seeing that she did not refute, it seemed like she was trying to be tolerant. Xiaohua waited for a while, and when he saw that Lightning Taoist had accepted the Fortune Gates disciples, he was about to ask for the Kunlun mirror when he saw Prince Lan, Li Xiang, and Xiongyi flying over to greet him. Xiaohua looked at the 3 people coming over, then glanced at Fujiwen. Fujiwen shook his head slightly, then nodded indifferently, making Xiaohua a little confused. However, he did not have time to ask, as Prince Lan and the others had already flown over. After greeting, the 3 of them apologized, saying that they were not good at ruling the country. Xiaohua frowned and helped the 3 of them up, saying, "When did the 3 of you become so unscrupulous? Master has never blamed the 3 of you, so why do you blame yourselves? Princess Qingqing has already said that this matter is Master's fault. Master did not pay enough attention to the Shao Empire. When Lightning Taoist returns, Master will personally persuade him." Yes, disciple knows his mistake. The three of them looked relaxed and stood at the side, waiting for Xiaohua to make a move. But a moment later, Prince Lan seemed to have thought of something, and slapped his forehead, then flew out in a hurry. He took out a jade eye and handed it to Xiaohua, saying, "Master, this is from Daoist Qing Su. He said that the Grand Mist Ancestor has something to tell Master. There is a restriction on this jade eye, so disciple cannot see it, so disciple does not know what it is. Disciple had almost forgotten about it these few days because of the strange insects. Please forgive Master." Xiaohua's heart tightened, but the expression on his face did not change. He nodded and received the jade eye. When he raised his hand and tapped on the jade eye, a burst of light flashed, and the restriction placed on the jade eye by the Grand Mist Ancestor was broken. After Xiaohua placed the jade eye on his forehead and used his divine sense to examine it for a moment, he squeezed out a smile and nodded towards Prince Lan as he said, "Master understands. Your jade eye has really solved a big problem in Master's heart. Being able to do something for Master is disciple's responsibility." A smile appeared on Prince Lan's face. It was a very happy smile. It seemed that helping Xiaohua was his top priority. Princess Zixia naturally did not know about Prince Lan's matter. She was worried that the Grand Mist Ancestor had some kind of scheme, so she asked in a low voice, "Darling Xiao, the Grand Mist Ancestor. What did he say in the jade eye? He is a very shrewd person, you must be careful, He just take a look." Xiaohua chuckled and was about to pass the jade eye to Princess Zixia. However, Xiaohua hesitated for a moment. After pondering for a moment, he put away the jade eyes and smiled. It seems like this Xiao is not the only one who is obsessed with the world-exterminating ephemera. As a member of the Tao Gate, the Grand Mist Ancestor is also obsessed with this matter. He has found a way to get rid of the strange insects and has invited this Xiao to discuss it with him. If there is anything, we can discuss it at the Fortune Gate. Why do we have to go to the Sky-Bearing Palace? Princess Zixia frowned. She did not understand why Xiaohua kept the jade eye, and did not want to show it to her. Xiaohua smiled and answered, "I feel that human nature is kind. Even if we scheme and quarrel over trivial matters, we should focus on the important matter. However, in the face of this calamity, the human race must prioritize the overall situation and eliminate the world destruction mayflies. Thus, I choose to believe in fellow Taoist primordial chaos, and that he has the humanity of a human." As he spoke, he looked at His Highness Lan and praised, "Your Highness Lan, you've done well. If Master and the Grand Mist Ancestor succeed, you will take the most credit." Disciple does not dare to take credit. Prince Lan hurriedly bowed and said, "Disciple was merely passing on the message. In fact, Daoist Qing Su wanted to pass the jade eye to Senior Brother Fu. But Senior Brother Fu happened to be away, so he passed it to Disciple. It doesn't matter who it is." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Eliminating the world-destroying ephemera is the most important thing." As he spoke, the lightning Taoist had already returned. Xiaohua took the Kunlun mirror and flew into the sky above the Xiao country. He then raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Boom! Several bolts of lightning shot into the sky, covering the sky within 1,000 li. The Xiao country's citizens had just escaped from the strange insect's attack, and were still in a state of shock. Seeing the lightning in the sky again, they trembled with fear. However, when they saw the thunderstorm, which was like a horned dragon, slowly transform into Xiaohua's figure, the crowd of people couldn't help but burst into tears. One after another, they kneeled on the ground and called out, Daoist Xiao, my people. Xiaohua's voice is like thunder rumbling in the sky. I am Daoist Master Xiao. Today, I have an important matter to tell you all. Xiaohua explained the matter of the world-exterminating ephemera in a concise manner. In the end, he waved his hand and the Kunlun mirror fell into the air. Wung wung wung. The Kunlun mirror let out a rumbling sound, and a huge beam of light shot out from the Kunlun mirror and landed in the sky above Xiao Empire. Then, the situation of Shanhua continent turned into a light projection that appeared in the space of a few thousand miles. Mountain after mountain, mountain after mountain, piece after piece of fertile land, cluster after cluster of mountain flowers, a peaceful scene of men plowing and women weaving slowly appeared in front of the stunned citizens of Xiao Empire. After a full hour, Xiaohua finally pointed his hand, and the light projection gradually shrunk and disappeared into the Kunlun mirror. Xiaohua smiled and said, "My people, this is the Kunlun wonderland that my disciple told you all about. This place, although it is not as big as the hidden immortal continent, it is definitely bigger than Xiao Empire. This is a magic tool that I carry with me. In other words, once you enter the Kunlun wonderland, you will be by my side. I can protect you all at any time. Now the hidden immortal continent is being attacked by the world-exterminating strange insects, and I have yet to find a way to destroy them. I hope that you all can enter the Kunlun wonderland temporarily to avoid the disaster. After the world-exterminating strange insects are destroyed, I will ask for your opinion. If you all want to stay in the Kunlun wonderland, then you can live and reproduce there. If you still want to return to the hidden immortal continent, then I will send you all back. Don't worry, I will definitely respect your choice. Thank you, Taoist Xiao, for your mercy. We will follow the guidance of Nanwar Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. Thank you, Guanyin Bodhisattva, for sending us to the wonderland." The Xiao Empire citizens no longer had any objections. They all knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the sky to express their gratitude. "I still have to go overseas to find a way to kill the world-exterminating strange insects, so I can't stay here for long." Seeing this, Xiaohua added, "I ask my Fortune Gate second master, Lightning Taoist, to send you all into the Kunlun wonderland." Xiaohua then nodded at Lightning Taoist. Lightning Taoist also transformed into a lightning giant, and with a wave of his hand, the Kunlun mirror appeared in his hand. He said, "I will follow the sect master's orders." "Thank you, Taoist Xiao." "Thank you, Lightning Taoist." The Xiao Empire citizens thanked him again. "All right, you all pack up your belongings," Lightning Taoist said. 10 days later, "I will send you all into the Kunlun wonderland. Don't worry, I can take away your houses and belongings." Hearing this, the Xiao Empire citizens were even more delighted. After kowtowing, they hurriedly left. Subsequently, Xiaohua and Lightning Taoist withdrew their Dharma images and descended. Xiaohua looked at Lightning Taoist and Qingqing and said, "Fellow Taoist, I still have to rush back to the Western Sea. I'll leave the Xiao Empire to you." And Lightning Taoist nodded. "Go ahead. I is here. Fujiwen, Prince Lan, Li Xiang, Xiongyi, you all will also assist your martial uncle Lightning in the Xiao Empire." Xiaohua ordered. "Yes, disciple understands." All the disciples bowed. Prince Lan then asked, "Master, if the Xiao Empire citizens are going to the Kunlun wonderland, then what about our Xiao Empire? Are we going to give up? Are we going to give it to Confucian cultivators for nothing? Fujiwen, what do you think?" Xiaohua turned to ask Fujiwen. Fujiwen thought for a moment and smiled. "No matter what, the Xiao Empire is our Fortune Gate's foundation. We've given up on the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, but the Xiao Empire can't be given up for the time being. Moreover, didn't Master say so earlier? After the insect plague is over, the Xiao Empire citizens will return. We have to protect their homeland. Not to mention, the world-exterminating strange insects are everywhere. There's no difference between killing them in the West Sea and in the Xiao Empire. Disciple feels that we should stay here." And you're right. Our Fortune Gates disciples are also setting up transmission arrays all over the hidden immortal mainland. They also need a place to stay, and the Xiao Empire is the best choice. Xiaohua smiled faintly and raised his hand. "Since that's the case, all of you stay here and let your martial uncle Lightning accompany you." "Many thanks, Master." Fujiwen was overjoyed. With the Lightning Taoist by his side, what kind of strange insects would he be afraid of? Prince Lan was happy and nodded at Xiongyi and Li Xiang. Xiaohua didn't stay for long. After exchanging a few words with the Lightning Taoist, he led Princess Zixia to the flying carriage and left. However, after flying for several tens of thousands of li, Princess Zixia couldn't help asking in a low voice, "Darling Xiao, Grand Mist Ancestor, what method did he find to kill the mayflies? This concubine is really curious." Xiaohua sneered and raised his hand to pass the jade eye to Princess Zixia. Princess Zixia activated her golden pupils. A golden light appeared in her eyes. That golden light fell on her jade pupils. After a moment, Princess Zixia cried out in alarm, "How is this possible? Even the Dragon Island, Great Sage Temple, and Thunder Temple said that there's no spatial passage to the outside world in the 3 continents. How did the Grand Mist Ancestor find it? Not only that. Xiao Hua replied indifferently, the Rainbow Sea God Seashell, Senior Su, and Fairy Xingyu also said that the 3 continents are strange. The space around them is very tight. If one doesn't enter from the outside world, it's impossible to leave from the inside. Although Fairy Xingyu didn't say it clearly, she vaguely revealed that this might be the reason for the immortal array. Even these powerful experts couldn't find the passage, so how could the Grand Mist Ancestor find it? Oh, that's right, look further back. Princess Zixia continued to look, and a puzzled expression appeared on her face. She asked curiously, 10,000 Demon World? Metal, wood, and magnetic? What does that mean? Of course, it's outside the soaring cloudside hall. The Grand Mist Ancestor wanted me to bring him in. Xiao Hua explained, I raised a condition, and one of them was for him to give me the 5 elements magnetic. Of course, that was just a joke and he remembered it in his heart. So, he used the metal and wood magnetic as bait, saying that the 10,000 Demon World has it. Moreover, he knows the spatial passage from the 3 continents to the 10,000 Demon World. He lured me into his trap. Oh, then you in the Xiao country. Princess Zixia's thoughts were quite meticulous, and she immediately thought of Xiao Hua's strange behavior. Xiao Hua's face turned cold, and he said, of course I don't want to see the Grand Mist Ancestor scheming against me when the 3 continents are in danger. I'd rather believe that he does know some ancient secrets, and that this secret spatial passage does exist. I'm even willing to believe that the Grand Mist Ancestor said that the 10,000 Demon World's metal and wood magnetic is real. Therefore, I'm willing to take this risk for this belief. Moreover, there's another secret. My fortune gate is not a paradise. That disciple named Prince Lan. After Xiao Hua finished talking about Prince Lan's attack on Changyu, Princess Zixia's eyes narrowed, and she nodded, Darling Xiao, you're casting a long line to catch a big fish, ah. But at this point this big fish has no special value, why don't you pull in the net? Yes, I'm just about to pull in the net. Xiao Hua laughed, but there are many ways to pull in the net. If the Grand Mist Ancestor really wants to join hands to kill Fuyu, and this spatial passage is real, I'll let Prince Lan commit suicide, leaving him a good reputation. If the Grand Mist Ancestor hands over the disciples who attacked Changyu, I can reluctantly let bygones be bygones. If this news is false, the sky-bearing palace has no value in the 3 continents. Although I don't want to create a rift between the sects, I can't hold back since they're already forcing me. But you're risking your life, it's not appropriate. Princess Zixia said worriedly. But compared to the lives of the sky-bearing palace's disciples, this risk is worth it. Xiao Hua laughed, moreover, don't you understand my strength? How can I fall into the Grand Mist Ancestor's trap? Your strength is not bad, I know this. But the Grand Mist Ancestor's schemes are too deep. I'm afraid you're not his opponent. Xiao Hua chuckled, I still have the Kunlun mirror. Even if there are 3 Grand Mist Ancestors hiding inside, they won't be a match for me. Io, then why did you give the Kunlun mirror to the lightning Taoist? Princess Zixia became anxious when she heard Xiao Hua's words, and shouted, quick, stop the Pegasus, go gather the Xiao Empire's people. These 10 days won't make much difference. Seeing that Princess Zixia was worried, Xiao Hua laughed. Xiao Empire is a test for Prince Lan. This Kunlun mirror might be a test for the Lightning Taoist and Princess Qingqing. Princess Zixia understood when she heard Xiao Hua's words. She raised her finger and pointed at Xiao Hua's forehead. I didn't expect my sect master to be so scheming, But your scheming is wasted. If my sister can't even resist this little temptation, how could she have fought with me for so long in the Immortal Palace? The past is the past, the present is the present. Xiao Hua laughed, she had everything before. Naturally she wouldn't care about this temptation. But now she has nothing. Maybe she'll swallow this little temptation. Impossible. Princess Zixia shook her head. I feel that this time, my sister has really fallen in love. Damn, this lightning Taoist is so unromantic. How did my sister fall in love with him? Hearing Princess Zixia say damn, Xiao Hua was dumbstruck and Princess Zixia came to her senses. Her cheeks flushed red, and she glared at Xiao Hua fiercely. Love is so inexplicable. Xiao Hua shrugged with a helpless look and said, I think. You know it too. Princess Zixia rolled her eyes and a crafty smile appeared on her face. I've already heard the story of Lu Town and Guozhuang House, and I've also helped Xiaohua recover a lot of his memories. I wonder if Xiaohua can tell me about the matters of Xiaoyu continent now? This time, Xiaohua won't lose his memories, right? Xiaohua nodded and said seriously, I'll let you know about these things sooner or later, and I also want you to tell me about your life in the Immortal Palace. But now that the world-exterminating mayfly is so powerful, and your strength is limited, I want to take advantage of the time now to tell you about the 5-cheese unification technique. Okay. Princess Zixia was overjoyed when she heard this and said, Xiaohua, the 5-cheese unification technique you gave me is really profound, and I've already comprehended enough in these hundreds of years, but every time I take a step forward, I find that there are still many things I don't understand. Previously, when the master of the Scholar Palace was here, I wanted to ask him to explain it to me, but then too many things happened and I didn't have time. You and the master of the Scholar Palace are good friends, and this 5-cheese unification technique was also given to him by you, so he will definitely explain it to you in detail. Xiaohua's plan succeeded, and he released his divine sense to look into the distance, then raised his hand and said, Let's go, let the Pegasus flying carriage land on the mountain in front, and I will explain the 5-cheese unification technique to you while we wait for the lightning immortal to arrive. Seeing Xiaohua release his divine sense, Princess Zixia slightly curled her lips, as if she already knew what Xiaohua was thinking. Xiaohua waited for dozens of days, and seeing that Xiaohua was a bit anxious, Princess Zixia said in a low voice, Let's stop here for now, Xiaohua, go to Xiao country to take a look, and don't let any accidents happen. There's no need. Just as Xiaohua was about to reply, his brows relaxed, and he said with a smile, The lightning immortal is already here. Sure enough, not long after, the lightning immortal's figure appeared in mid-air. What was special was that when the lightning immortal just appeared, he actually involuntarily glanced behind him, as if he was afraid of being discovered. Fellow Taoist, Xiaohua asked curiously, Is someone chasing you? Damn it, no one is chasing me. The lightning immortal muttered, Isn't it that Qing Qing? She keeps an eye on I every day, as if I will run away. Today I finally managed to get her to go, and only then did I manage to escape. It can't be. Xiaohua said in surprise, Qing Qing's strength is only around the 6th grade of essence energy. Right? Isn't it easy for you to avoid her? That. The lightning immortal was embarrassed to speak again. Princess Zixia curled her lips and said, You don't have to worry. She definitely won't follow you, and she definitely won't ask you about the Kunlun mirror in the future. She knows that you want to return the Kunlun mirror, so she took the initiative to avoid you. That's not true. The lightning immortal argued forcefully. The main thing is that it is too troublesome to collect the citizens of Xiao Empire, which is why it took so much time. Kiki. Xiaohua did not say any more. He took over the Kunlun mirror and said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, did you collect all the citizens of Xiao Empire? About 80%. The lightning immortal shook his head and said, I heard from Fujiwen that the remaining 20%, no matter how you persuade them, they are not willing to enter the Kunlun immortal realm. I will be in charge of collecting them. As for the rest, you should ask Fujiwen. Alright. Xiaohua kept the Kunlun mirror and said, Fellow Taoist, when you return, tell Fujiwen that this is Ai's order. Tell him to prepare to reel in the net, and wait for Ai's order to come, and let him catch them all in one fell swoop. No problem. After hearing Xiaohua's words, the lightning immortal urged, Fellow Taoist, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. Seeing the lightning immortal acting like a thief, how is this the bearing of a Taoism's Mahayana? Xiaohua helplessly laughed a few times and said, There is nothing else, you should quickly return. Farewell. The lightning immortal raised his hand to bid farewell and hurriedly left. Princess Zixia at the side was also shocked. She also looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and asked curiously, Darling Xiao, this lightning immortal, is he? I'm afraid so. Xiaohua said with a smile, however, this is his matter. You and I should just watch from the sidelines. We can only leave it to fate. Princess Zixia knew that she could no longer stop Princess Qingqing. She was extremely disgusted but also happy. The feeling was so complicated that even she herself could not explain it clearly. After taking the Kunlun mirror, Xiaohua kept the Pegasus flying chariot. He held Princess Xixa's hand and rushed towards the East Sea with lightning escape. Within the East Sea Dragon Palace, whether it was the dragon race or the oceanic race, they all moved their bodies and quickly traversed through the serene blue crystal-like seawater. Some even impatiently teleported, looking busy and nervous. However, at the core of the Dragon Palace, inside the main hall that flickered with treasure light, it was quiet again. There were more than 100 dragon generals wearing dragon armor and holding dragon weapons. They surrounded the main hall so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Waves of chaotic water rippled from all directions, but they were immediately annihilated by the dragon generals with a wave of their hands. Not to mention that the noise could not reach the main hall at all. Boom! A loud rumble sounded from several hundred zhang away from the main hall. The nearby dragon generals were all startled. They involuntarily raised the dragon weapons in their hands, wanting to surround the main hall. However, when they saw a huge water halo appear amidst the rumble, and then a tricolored halo spread out one after another, a dragon general wearing dragon armor hurriedly flew out from the halo. The dragon generals had a look of realization on their faces. Most of them flew back, leaving only one dragon general at the front to block him. Reporting to the great general, the dragon general flew out of the halo and hurriedly shook his dragon head. In his dragon claws was a dragon shell. He reported, "There is a message from the West Sea Dragon Palace." That as he spoke, the dragon general handed the dragon shell over. The great general took the dragon shell and nodded without looking at it. He said, "Thank you for your hard work." "Thank you for your hard work, great general," the dragon general said politely. He turned around and flew back into the halo. His dragon body faded for a moment. The great general turned around and was about to fly back to the main hall. A dragon general beside him smiled bitterly and said, "Great general, why is it the West Sea again? How can it not be the West Sea?" The great general replied helplessly, "The West Sea today is no longer the West Sea of the past." After saying that, the great general did not dare to delay. He urged his dragon body to enter the main hall. However, at this moment, boom, there was another sound of water. Not far from the halo that just appeared, another tricolored halo appeared. The palace guard grand general stopped, but his dragon body didn't move. The dragon general who just spoke swayed his dragon body and blocked the light ring. Another dragon general hurriedly flew out from the light ring. As soon as he saw this dragon general, he looked up at the palace guard grand general and shouted, "Palace guard grand general, urgent report from the West Sea. Bring it over." The great general was too lazy to move. After he gave the order, the dragon general waved his dragon claw, and the long bay in his hand flew into the great general's dragon claw at lightning speed. Then, the dragon general hurriedly returned. Damn the fortune gate! The great general looked at the two dragon shells in the dragon claws and cursed under his breath. Just as he was about to enter the main hall. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, tip it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 47:21. Boom. Another dragon general came to deliver a message. Fuck. Is there an end to this? The palace general was really angry. He knew very well that any ordinary battle report from the four seas would be handled by specialized civil officials of the Dragon Palace. Anything that could be sent directly to the palace could be said to be extremely urgent. These messages were extremely rare. Ever since the Fortune Gate's Zhang Hong had taken over the West Sea Dragon Palace, the East Sea Dragon Palace's Crown Prince Aoxiang had been sending urgent messages one after another. However, it was rare to see so many of them today. Reporting to the great general. The moment the dragon general appeared, he immediately reported. Before he could finish, the great general interrupted him and asked, "Is it another message from the West Sea Dragon Palace?" The dragon general was stunned and hurriedly shook his head, reporting to the great general, "It's not the West Sea Dragon Palace. It's an urgent message from the hidden immortal continent's bestial battle arena." Bestial battle arena? The great general was surprised and scolded. What urgent message from the bestial battle arena? This time. Why are they still in a mess? Why can't you see the importance of this matter? How can you casually send a message to His Majesty the Dragon King? The dragon general wasn't in a hurry. After the great general finished speaking, he respectfully said, "This subordinate understands. Many thanks for the great general's guidance. However, the message from the hidden immortal continent's bestial battle arena is Chuanzong's message." See, the great general was shocked and suppressed his anger. However, he frowned and said, "That's not right. Even though Chuanzong wants to seek scriptures from the west and has to pass through the East Sea, he can't have reached the East Sea from the Longevity Town so quickly, right?" Yes, the bestial battle arena sent the message. Chuanzong is still 10,000 miles away from the East Sea. The dragon general hurriedly explained. 10,000 miles, ah. The great general didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How long would it take for Chuanzong to reach the East Sea from 10,000 miles away? Why would they send an urgent message? Did they eat too much seaweed and have too much? But Master Shao has already spoken in the Longevity Town. The dragon general continued to explain. Anyone who dares to hurt Chuanzong will have their entire family exterminated. Right now, the Fortune Gate is like the sun in the midday sky, and their 10,000 li territory has already entered the Beast Battle Arena's sphere of influence. They want to report to His Majesty, Dragon King, to let the Eastern Sea be prepared to go there without any mishaps. Xiao Longshi's only nephew is too important. Alright, I got it. The great general knew that the Beast Battle Arena was right to be cautious. He nodded and gestured for the dragon general to turn back. After waiting for a moment and seeing that there were no more halos, he entered the great hall. Although the hall was large and countless precious items were shining brightly, the moment the great general entered the hall, his gaze immediately landed on the dragon throne that was overflowing with treasure light. The Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, Ao Qian, was seated on the dragon throne. Hundreds of dragon images of various colors formed from dragon aura flew around the dragon throne. Waves of aura that caused the dragon tribe to prostrate, feel shocked, and apprehensive spread from the dragon throne, enveloping the entire hall. Reporting to His Majesty, Dragon King. The great general's body trembled, and his voice was a little hoarse as he stood inside the hall. Yes, Ao Qian withdrew his gaze from the dragon scroll in his hand. He lifted his head and glanced at the hall guardian great general. The dancing dragon figure immediately roared and returned to the dragon throne. The frightening aura in the hall was completely swept away. An urgent message from the Western Sea Dragon Palace. The palace guarding Grand General moved his body and entered the great hall. He respectfully presented the 3 dragon shells. 3 urgent messages from the Western Sea Dragon Palace? Ao Qian was stunned, and he was a little annoyed. Is Jiang Hong courting death? Seeing that Ao Qian was angry, the great general hurriedly explained, "There are 2 of them and the other one is related to the Fortune Gate." Ao Qian nodded, took the 3 dragon shells, and placed them on the dragon table in front of the dragon throne. Seeing this, the great general turned to leave, but Ao Qian suddenly said, "Owen, do you think Jiang Hong is causing such a big ruckus in the Western Sea Dragon Palace?" The great general was stunned for a moment, and then he replied, "In this general's opinion, I'm afraid he doesn't know." "Oh, why?" Ao Qian did not pick up the dragon shells, but asked with interest. The great general hurriedly replied, "Xiao Longshi is the benevolent Guanyin Bodhisattva. Although this general is not interested in those bald donkeys of the Buddhist sect, this general knows that the Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit is very difficult to obtain. Since Xiao Longshi can obtain the Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit as a Tao sect cultivator, he must be truly benevolent." "Humph." Ao Qian coldly snorted and said, "He is benevolent to the secular world, but to the immortal palace, the 4 great clans, the dragon palace of the 4 seas, and the 1,000 demons' sacred realm, he is not benevolent at all." Yes. The great general hurriedly smiled and said, "This general does not know these things, I'm just casually speaking." "Oh, it's fine, go ahead." Ao Qian came to a realization and said with a smile, "This king has suffered too much from Xiaohua, so I might have misjudged him. Just answer me truthfully." Yes, the great general knew Ao Qian's temperament, so he did not hide anything and told him his thoughts. Finally, he said, "Moreover, in front of the Longevity Town, Xiao Longshi did not hesitate to fall out with the immortal palace for the sake of the world-destroying strange insect. and asked the Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans to stop fighting. At that time when this general received the news, I was extremely surprised and felt that Xiao Longsher was making a mountain out of a molehill, and even felt that he had other intentions. However, from the current battle reports of the 4 seas, Xiao Longsher's words were not alarmist. This strange insect really has the ability to destroy the world. Therefore, this general feels that Xiao Longsher really wants to save the world. He wants the 3 continents, the 4 seas, and the 3 rivers to work together to overcome this crisis. Your Majesty, take a look at the latest news. Xiao Longsher first went to the Dragon Island, then to the North Sea Dragon Palace, and then to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Although there is no more news, Xiao Longsher must have gone to the Great Holy Hall. The Fortune Gate's disciples moved to the West Sea, but Xiao Longsher did not care about them at all. As for Jiang Hong's actions in the West Sea Dragon Palace, Xiao Longsher definitely does not know about it. You have a lot of confidence in Xiao Longsher. Ao Qian smiled and said, why don't this king write a letter for you to guard his Fortune Dao Palace? Who knows? He might even arrange a West Sea Dragon King for you. When Ao Yuan heard this, his face changed, and he hurriedly prostrated himself in the hall and pleaded, Your Majesty, please spare my life, Your Majesty, please spare my life. Humph. Ao Qian did not even look at Ao Yuan. With a wave of his dragon claw, a dragon shell fell into his hand. Ao Qian then took out a dragon stratagem from the dragon shell. When Ao Qian read the message in the dragon stratagem, his face turned cold, and he said, Did you read the message from the West Sea Dragon Palace? This general does not dare, this general did not. Ao Yuan replied in fear. Humph. Ao Qian snorted again, as if he was sending a message. Holy Zhang's clans Jingqing and his wife Ao Xian were involved in the conflict between the West Sea Dragon Palace's 2nd Prince Ao Yu and 3rd Prince Ao Ying. They plotted to kill Ao Yu and Ao Ying, and they deserved to die. However, considering that Ao Yu and Ao Ying were the masterminds, and Jingqing and Ao Xian were the accomplices, the St. Jiang clan leader personally came to the West Ocean Dragon Palace to apologize and compensate them. Especially since they were killing the strange insects today, they could preserve some of their strength to resist the strange insects. Jingqing and Ao Xian also swore a dragon oath that they were willing to fight to the death and kill the strange insects to atone for their sins. The West Sea Dragon Palace's 1st Prince Ao Qian agreed to pardon Jingqing and Ao Xian temporarily to atone for their crimes. The East Sea Dragon Palace's 1st Prince Ao Xiang seconded the motion, and the Dragon Island's dragon envoy abstained. But the Fortune Gate's Jiang Hong had resolutely refused, insisting on killing Jingqing and Ao Xian. She had stated that if Jingqing and Ao Xian were not killed, it would serve as a warning to the other forces that wanted to encroach on the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace. It would not serve as a deterrent, and if the other forces rebelled, it would affect the Fortune Gate's mission of exterminating the strange insects in the Western Sea, as well as the Fortune Gate's disciples' safety. Therefore, Jingqing and Ao Xian were killed. Look. Ao Qian threw Long Su onto Ao Yuan's face and said angrily, This is the disciple of Nanhua Great Merciful Bodhisattva. Without Nanhua Great Merciful Bodhisattva's approval, would Jiang Hong dare to do this? The West Sea Dragon Palace is my dragon palace of the 4 seas, not the Heavenly Abode River's Dragon Palace, and not the Fortune Gate's Dragon Palace. The words of my East Sea Dragon Palace's 1st Prince and West Sea Dragon Palace's 1st Prince can't even compare to the words of a Heavenly Abode River's Dragon Clan. Ao Yuan didn't dare to say anything, but he was cursing in his heart. Jingqing and Ao Xian had plotted to kill Ao Yu and Ao Ying, so they deserved to die. The West Sea Dragon Palace's Crown Prince Ao Qian was weak and couldn't bear to kill his elder sister Ao Xian. Perhaps Ao Qian himself wasn't clean, and the East Sea Dragon Palace's Crown Prince Ao Xiang had other plans in his heart. What Jiang Hong did was fair. It was just that Ao Qian couldn't bear to see the Fortune Gate make a move, so he flew into a rage. Seeing that Ao Yuan didn't dare to say anything, Ao Qian snorted coldly and picked up another Long Su. When he saw Long Su's message, he roared angrily, Jiang Hong, you're really courting death. Xiao Hua, this king and you are irreconcilable. Ao Yuan's eyes turned rapidly, and he regretted telling Ao Qian the truth in his heart. Sure enough, Ao Qian threw Long Su onto Ao Yuan's face again and roared, read it with this king. Yes, Your Majesty. Ao Yuan picked up Long Su and looked at it. There was a complicated expression on his ugly dragon face as he read it word by word. After Jingqing and Ao Xian were killed, the rest of the dragon clan were sent back. The West Sea Dragon Palace's crown prince Ao Qian was afraid of chaos in the West Sea, so he had sent the second crown prince, third crown prince, fourth crown prince, and seventh crown prince to patrol the West Sea. Now that there was a mistake, Ao Qian recalled the other crown princes and ordered the patrolling general to appoint 8 inspectors to patrol the sea. This was originally the West Sea Dragon Palace's internal affairs, but Fortune Gate's Zhang Hong requested that the West Sea Inspector's patrol area be reduced to 800,000 li radius around the West Sea Dragon Palace, and the rest of the sea be patrolled by Fortune Gate's disciples. Zhang Hong's suggestion was rejected by the East Sea Dragon Palace's Crown Prince Ao Xiang, West Sea Dragon Palace's Crown Prince Ao Qian, and the Dragon Island's Dragon Envoy abstained. Reading until here, Ao Yuan was puzzled. He raised his head and looked at Ao Qian. Ao Qian sneered, "What's wrong? Continue reading." Yes. Ao Yuan shuddered and continued reading. Proposal rejected. Zhang Hong sneered. At this time, bad news came from the south and east of the West Sea. In the east of the West Sea, strange insects attacked, killing 2 West Sea inspectors. In the south of the West Sea, the St. River Dragon tribe encountered the West Sea patrolling sea tribe, exterminated 20,000 West Sea tribe members, and fled to the South Sea. Continue reading. Ao Qian impatiently swung his dragon tail, shattering a giant coral in the hall as he snarled. Ao Yuan dared not delay, and continued reading. Zhang Hong flew into a rage, leading the West Sea Dragon Palaces, Fortune Gate's dragon tribe, and sent a message to the West Sea's Fortune Gate's disciples to board lightning boats and chase after the St. River Dragon tribe at the border of the South Sea. At that time, the Fortune Gate's disciples had just stopped the St. River Dragon tribe, and under Zhang Hong's order, the Fortune Gate's disciples massacred the St. River Dragon tribe. At the same time, the Fortune Gate's disciples besieged the millions of strange insects in the east of the West Sea, killing more than 100,000 of them. Zhang Hong returned to the West Sea Dragon Palace, and the Dragon Island's dragon envoys doubted the West Sea Dragon Palace's ability to patrol the sea, and suggested that the West Sea Dragon Palace withdraw their forces to stabilize the Dragon Palace's safety. Under Zhang Hong's iron fist, the dragon envoys agreed. See? Ao Qian roared. The West Sea's Dragon Palace is no longer the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, but the Fortune Gate's Dragon Palace, the Heavenly Paradise River's Dragon Palace. Yes, Your Majesty. Ao Yuan did not dare to say more, and quietly placed Long Su on the table as he responded in a low voice. My great general, Ao Qian coldly said. You don't understand at all. How could the St. River Dragon tribe attack the West Sea tribe while fleeing? How could the Fortune Gate's disciples stop the St. River Dragon tribe in such a timely manner? This was all planned by Zhang Hong in advance. Strange insects, where are so many strange insects? The 2 inspectors who were killed by the strange insects. If I'm not mistaken, they were all killed by the Fortune Gate's disciples. Without Xiao Hua's instructions, who would dare to create such a big storm in the West Sea? Ao Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air, and exclaimed in shock, Your Majesty, it can't be. What can't be? Absolutely. Ao Qian glared at Ao Yuan and said, Do you think Xiao Hua is the merciful bodhisattva of Nanwu that you speak of? Do you think he's the selfless bodhisattva? If so, how could the South Sea Dragon Palace be split in half? The West Sea Dragon Palace's treasury, how could it be taken by Xiao Hua? He's a naked robber, a sanctimonious hypocrite. As he spoke, Ao Qian waved his hand and picked up the last dragon shell, and took out the dragon Su inside. After he looked at it, he swung his hand and smashed it on Ao Yuan's face, shouting, Fortune Gate, it's the Fortune Gate again. Didn't you say this wasn't news from the Fortune Gate? Isn't this Chunzong Xiaohua's nephew? Yes. Ao Yuan was a little dizzy, and he held the dragon Su and read, Reporting to Your Majesty Dragon King. Read my ass. Ao Qian shouted, What's there to read? After this damn traitor obtained the Thunder Sound Temple's Buddha fruit, he actually slapped the Mahavarakkana Buddha Lord. If he didn't have such a good uncle, He would have been slapped to death by the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord. Seeking scriptures from the West. Seeking scriptures from the West. Why would he go to the West Sea's peak to obtain scriptures? He's a spy planted by Xiao Hua in the Buddhism gate. He wants. This king understands now. No wonder Xiao Hua wanted to place the Fortune Gate's foundation in the West Sea. So, he wanted Chunzong to go to the Fortune Dao Palace to obtain scriptures. He wants to become the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord. No, it can't be? Aoyuan said in disbelief. Xiao Hua himself is the Nanwu merciful Bodhisattva of Nanwu. How could he become the current Buddha Lord? Moreover, how could the current Buddha Lord change hands? Even the Nanwu Maitreya Buddha changed hands. How could the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord not change hands? Aochen said angrily. Moreover, that six-eared macaque also covets the Dipankara archaic Buddha Lord's position. Just as Aochen was venting his anger, a voice came from outside the hall. Your Majesty, there's an urgent report. Where did this urgent report come from? Aochen shouted angrily. Could it be from the Fortune Gate? Yes, Your Majesty. The dragon general outside the hall helplessly replied. Boom. Aochen waved his dragon claw and slammed it on the dragon table in front of him. The dragon table was instantly shattered into pieces. Aoyuan trembled and prostrated himself like an obedient little loach. The dragon general outside the hall heard the commotion and didn't dare to enter. Aoyuan, bring it in. After a while, Aochen suppressed his anger and said in a low voice. Yes. Aoyuan didn't dare to delay. He hurriedly got up and walked out of the hall, taking the dragon Su from the dragon general's hand. However, just as he turned around and entered the hall, he felt a little confused. He didn't know why the dragon Su wasn't placed in the dragon shell. Aoyuan timidly handed the dragon Su to Aochen and prostrated himself on the ground, waiting for Aochen to throw the dragon Su on his face. However, after Aochen finished looking at the dragon Su, Aoyuan didn't expect the dragon Su to fall on his face. Instead, Aochen was surprised. Why did Xiao Hua go to the hidden immortal mainland? Shouldn't he be in the Great Sage Hall? Yes, Your Majesty. What's going on? Aoyuan followed Aochen's words and replied. Quick. Aochen suddenly shouted. Aoyuan, prepare my East Sea Dragon Palace's welcome. The Fortune Gate's Xiao Hua is coming to my East Sea Dragon Palace. Yes, Your Majesty. Aoyuan didn't realize what was going on. He just agreed and didn't move. Pooh. Aochen shook his hand and threw the dragon Su to Aoyuan's face. He roared. This king said, quick, quick, quick. Xiao Hua is outside my East Sea Dragon Palace. He's coming to my East Sea Dragon Palace. Ah? How is that possible? Aoyuan was awakened by the dragon Su and exclaimed in shock. Isn't he in the Great Sage Hall? Then, a tricolored halo rushed out from Aoyuan's dragon body. With a boom, he rushed out of the hall and roared. Everyone set up the welcoming formation. Master Xiao Hua is coming to the East Sea Dragon Palace. At this time, Aochen had no time to care about Aoyuan's inappropriate words. He frowned and whispered, what is Xiao Hua doing in my East Sea Dragon Palace? Is he forcing this king to hand over the West Sea Dragon Palace? Or does he want this king to? No, this king absolutely can't yield to Xiao Hua's despotic power. This king must unite with my two brothers and fight to the end. Unfortunately, Aochen still thought too much. After he and the East Sea Dragon Palace's Dragon Queen eagerly invited Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia to the hall, when he nervously asked why Xiao Hua came to the East Sea Dragon Palace, Xiao Hua's answer almost made Aochen fall off his dragon throne. This Xiao wants to borrow the East Sea Dragon Palace's teleportation formation to go to the West Sea Dragon Palace. Xiao Hua was very surprised by Aochen's politeness. Of course, if time permits, this Xiao also wants to talk to fellow immortal Ao about the world-exterminating strange insect. Could it be? Fellow immortal Ao has other matters. Before Xiao Hua came, Aochen was hysterically angry and cursed Xiao Hua, but when he really faced Xiao Hua, the supreme of the human race, he still smiled and said politely, no, this king doesn't have other matters. This king will let the palace's great general Aoyuan activate the teleportation formation. Then Aochen raised his eyes and looked at Aoyuan, who was standing respectfully at the side of the hall. But his dragon eyes were staring at Xiaohua without blinking. His eyes were full of piety. He said in a low voice, "Oh, yes, your majesty." Ao Yuan hurriedly withdrew his piety. He looked down and answered seriously, "This general will open the teleportation formation for Guanyin Bodhisattva." Damn it. Ao Qian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he didn't know that Ao Yuan grew up with him and was absolutely loyal to the Dragon Palace, he would really suspect that this guy was a heavenly dragon spy sent by the Buddhist sect. After Ao Yuan left, Ao Qian put on a smile again and asked hypocritically, "Dragon Master Xiao, this king heard from Brother Wang that you went to the Thousand Demons sacred realm from the North Sea Dragon Palace. Did you go to the Great Sage Hall? Does the Great Sage Hall have any information about the spatial realm? Or do they have a way to kill the strange insect?" Xiaohua nodded. He looked around and said with a smile, "This matter involves the secrets of some spatial realms. It's very important. Fellow immortal Ao, can you ask the other dragons to leave the hall?" Ao Qian was shocked. His first thought wasn't about the secrets of some spatial realm that Xiaohua wanted to talk about, but whether Xiaohua had come to ambush him. But after a moment, he couldn't help but laugh. He waved his hand and ordered the dragon generals guarding the hall to leave. "Your Majesty," the Dragon Queen of the East Sea Dragon Palace said gracefully, "this concubine has an extremely beautiful coral in the back hall. This concubine has always wanted to give it to the East Sea Empress. Now that there's Princess Zixia, this concubine feels that Princess Zixia is more suitable than the East Sea Empress. This concubine will bring Her Highness to take a look. If Her Highness likes it, this concubine will give it to Her Highness." Seeing the Dragon Queen of the Dragon Palace being so tactful and flattering, Princess Zixia smiled and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, Dragon Queen." After the Dragon Queen and Princess Zixia left, only Ao Qian and Xiaohua remained in the hall. Xiaohua didn't hide anything. He told Ao Qian about the origins of the world-destroying mayfly, the separation of the 4 great continents, the immortal formation in the West Sea, and part of the situation on Dragon Island, the Great Sage Hall, and the Thunder Temple. Finally, he said, "Actually, at this moment, I've already fallen into a desperate situation. Our 3 continents have also fallen into a desperate situation. Apart from fighting to the death, there's no other way out. Unless a god from the upper realm, or an immortal descends and takes away the world-destroying mayfly. How is that possible?" Ao Qian was dumbstruck when he heard this. His previous plan of taking the initiative to reprimand Xiaohua in a roundabout manner had already turned into smoke. He said in disbelief, "Dragon Master Xiao said that our 3 continents were originally the 4 great continents. The Dawn Rain continent you came from was one of the 4 great continents? And the West Sea has a great formation set up by the immortal realm?" Looking at Ao Qian's astonishment, Xiaohua didn't explain further. Instead, he nodded indifferently and waited for Ao Qian to digest it. "That's not very possible." Ao Qian shook his head and said, "Although this king is the Dragon King of the East Sea, this king is extremely familiar with the East Sea, West Sea, and even the 4 great seas. It's not like this king hasn't followed Ao Hong to the West Sea for inspection. It's impossible for there to be any immortal formation there. This Xiao said earlier that this Xiao came from the West Sea through an immortal formation. Moreover, this Xiao also saw the world-destroying mayfly in the eye of the West Sea." Xiaohua said with a smile, "That day in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, the golden-winged Great Peng also said that he had once chased a flood dragon to the west. He also didn't believe that there was any immortal formation there. However, fellow immortal Ao, an immortal formation is an immortal formation. It's not something we can know about. Believe it or not, the immortal formation is there. There won't be one more, and there won't be one less." Ao Qian pondered for a moment and said with a frown, "If it's as Master Long said, the only thing that can easily kill the mayfly is the heterogeneous true qi of the Dawn Rain continent. However, because of the immortal formation, the heterogeneous true qi can't come over. At the same time, our 3 continents don't have any spatial passageways that lead to other realms, and then to the Dawn Rain continent. Therefore, we can only fight with our backs against the wall? Besides fighting with our backs against the wall, does fellow immortal Ao have any other methods?" Xiaohua asked. Ao Qian sighed and said. After the meeting at the Jade Pool, this king returned to the Dragon Palace. Not only did this king ask the Dragon Clan to find the spatial passageways, but he also sent a message to the Dragon Palaces of the other 3 seas. Unfortunately, as Master Xiao said, there were no records of this at all, and there were no traces of immortal formations. However, this king didn't expect the world-destroying mayfly to be so powerful. So, where did Master Xiao get this information from? Of course it's from the one in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Oh, if that's the case, then it's right. Ao Qian understood and said with a bitter smile. It seems like we can only fight with our backs against the wall, but what are our chances of winning? Ao Qian was the first to ask about their chances of winning. Xiao Hua fell into deep thought, and his brows were tightly knitted. After a long while he said solemnly, only 10%. 10%? Ao Qian's dragon body suddenly flew up from the dragon throne and covered the entire hall. He exclaimed, if it's 10% then wouldn't it be inevitable that the world will be destroyed? Yes. Xiao Hua nodded. Other than the soaring cloudside palace, fellow immortal Ao has probably not fought with the strange insects for more than half of the time, right? Indeed. Ao Qian suddenly felt a little ashamed. He had always been in the East Sea, guarding the dragon palaces of the 4 seas, fearing that the Dragon Island and the Fortune Gate would invade, so he didn't pay much attention to the strange insects. I've encountered several world-destroying mayflies along the way. Xiao Hua explained. Fellow immortal Ao is from the dragon race, so you must know that the world-destroying mayflies are insects. The insect race's greatest advantage is their large numbers, and the world-destroying mayflies reproduce too quickly. Moreover, on the 3 continents, the world-destroying mayflies have no natural enemies, and the Pegasus can reproduce without any restrictions. This is incredible. What's more, up until now, the world-destroying mayflies can only be killed by spiritual qi that exceeds the Pegasus tolerance limit. Oh, that day at the Jade Pool, the mayfly that was on the verge of the 10th grade was forced to advance to the 10th grade by this Xiao's spiritual energy. And this time this Xiao actually saw 2 mayflies that surpassed the 9th grade on the hidden immortal continent. Aside from this Xiao's unique medicinal pills, even this Xiao has no way to kill these mayflies. So, my previous idea of the strange insect king might not be correct. If the lowest level world-destroying mayflies devour enough spiritual qi, they can evolve into the king of strange insects. Tens of millions of world-destroying mayflies that exceed the 9th grade. Ao Qian didn't even dare to think about it. He was speechless. Ai, that's right. Xiao Hua sighed and said, I'm at my wit's end. I'll return to the West Sea and prepare to join hands with my Fortune Gate's disciples to fight these world-destroying mayflies. As for whether we live or die, let's leave it to the heavens. Then, Ao Qian opened his mouth and asked, Master Xiao said that the immortal formation is powerful, but aren't these world-destroying mayflies even more powerful? If we can lure these world-destroying mayflies to the immortal formation. Unfortunately, Ao Qian stopped abruptly. After all, even he couldn't find the immortal formation, so how could the cultivators of the 3 continents lure the world-destroying mayflies to the immortal formation? Who knew where the immortal formation would come from? Fellow immortal Ao is right. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, I've also thought about this before. However, if we can't find the immortal formation, it won't be easy to find the world-destroying mayflies either. However, fellow immortal Ao's idea isn't unreasonable. This is probably the end of the world-destroying mayflies. After the world-destroying mayflies destroy the 3 continents, more world-destroying mayflies will appear. And they won't have any spiritual energy to devour. In the end, they will definitely find the immortal formation, and they will definitely devour it. The result of devouring it is that the immortal formation will open, and the foreign true energy will rush into the 3 continents and kill all the world-destroying mayflies. At that point, the 3 continents might start anew, or the 4 continents might be in a different state. The heavenly Tao is unpredictable, and the cycle of life and death is all in this. Your Majesty. Outside the hall, there was a commotion, and Ao Yuan's voice sounded. The transmission channel is ready. It's ready. Xiao Hua immediately stood up and said, Fellow immortal Ao, what I said. needs to be kept a secret for now. After all, if this matter spreads, the people's hearts will be unstable. Yes, this king understands. Ao Qian hurriedly stood up to send him off. However, after flying for a few dozen feet, Ao Qian was unwilling and hurriedly called out, Master Xiao, please wait. Oh, what's the matter? Xiao Hua stopped and looked at Ao Qian. Ao Qian chuckled, took out 3 dragon su and handed them to Xiao Hua, saying, this is some information that this king received. Master Xiao, when you have nothing to do, take a look. Sometimes the children play a bit too much. As their parents, we should still take care of them. Oh. Xiao Hua seemed to understand something. He took the dragon su and looked at it for a while. He waved his hand and handed the dragon su to Ao Qian, saying with a smile, since it's the children's own choice, then let the children play by themselves. As their parents, we should still worry about some world destruction matters. If we keep putting our eyes on these petty things, our own vision will also become small for no reason. Seeing Xiao Hua so protective, Ao Qian was unbearably angry. It's a pity that his 4 Seas pearl is still in Zhang Hong's hands. He doesn't dare to take the risk of the East Sea Dragon Palace being split into 2 by Xiao Hua again to vent his anger. Since that's the case, Ao Qian restrained his anger and said with a smile, then let the children play by themselves. When the time comes, it won't be good for us as their parents. It's fine, it's fine. Xiao Hua glanced at Ao Qian. This Xiao never cares about this kind of matter. It's completely the children's own idea. It has nothing to do with this Xiao's face. Seeing Xiao Hua deny it so cleanly, Ao Qian smiled slightly and raised his dragon claw, saying, Dragon Master Xiao, this way please. Princess Zixia was naturally waiting outside the main hall. Seeing a string of coral beads overflowing with light hanging on Princess Zixia's white neck, it really makes Princess Zixia even more beautiful. Xiao Hua was also overjoyed. He raised his hand and took out a jade bottle from his bosom and handed it to Princess Zixia, saying, Zixia, there's a saying in the human race that it's impolite to come and go. There's no harm in returning this pill to the Dragon Queen. Yes, it's indeed so. Princess Zixia took the pill and said with a sweet smile, just now this concubine thought for a long time, but couldn't find a suitable gift to return. Thank you, Xiao Lang. Saying that, Princess Zixia handed the jade bottle to the Dragon Queen and said, Dragon Queen, this is a pill refined by Xiao Lang. Please accept it. No need, no need. Seeing Xiao Hua take out a pill, the Dragon Queen of the East Sea Dragon Palace was somewhat puzzled. She was very instinctively polite. But Ao Qian, the lord of the East Sea Dragon Palace, was already surprised. He hurriedly said, since it's a gift from Dragon Master Xiao, you might as well take it. Now this thing is very precious. Yes, thank you, Princess Zixia. Thank you, Dragon Master Xiao. Hearing Ao Qian's urging, the Dragon Queen's heart trembled. She hurriedly took the jade bottle and thanked them. Dragon Queen, you're too polite. Princess Zixia smiled slightly and accompanied Xiao Hua to fly into the transmission array. When the transmission array was activated and Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia disappeared, the Dragon Queen asked curiously, Your Majesty, this pill? Give it to me. Ao Qian stretched out his dragon claw and asked the Dragon Queen for it. The Dragon Queen was even more confused, but she still gave the jade bottle to Ao Qian. Ao Qian took the jade bottle and felt at ease. He said coldly, Xiao Hua is really cunning. He obviously has a lot of such pills in the Kunlun immortal realm, but he still pretended that he didn't have them. Your Majesty, what is this pill? Why is it so precious? The Dragon Queen asked. Ai, this is a lifa. Ao Qian waved his hand and led the Dragon Queen back to the main hall. As he walked, he said, It's not that this king doesn't want to leave it to you, but if this king has no use for this pill, what's the use of it? Not to mention Ao Qian's explanation to the Dragon Queen about the pill's ability to kill the world-extinguishing mayfly. Xiao Hua had used the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's transmission array to come to the Western Sea Dragon Palace. The moment he stepped out of the Western Sea Dragon Palace's transmission array, Xiao Hua saw Zhang Hong's uneasy gaze. Zhang Hong understood that since Xiao Hua could come from the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace, Ao Qian would definitely tell Xiao Hua about her actions in the Western Sea Dragon Palace. Zhang Hong was even more aware that her little schemes and arrangements could be seen through by Ao Qian. She had killed the Saint River Dragon clan for the Fortune Gate, but also for the Paradise River. This kind of slaughter was not something Xiaohua liked to see. Every time Xiaohua saw Jiang Hong, there would be some contradictions in his heart. He also knew that although some people looked weak on the surface, their hearts were incomparably strong. They fought for power, and their competitive nature was deep in their bones. It was not something that could be bent by some powerful suppression. For example, Princess Qingqing had a competitive personality. Even if she had lost the title of Princess Immortal Emperor, she would never lower her head to Princess Zixia. Forget it. Xiaohua opened his mouth wanting to say something, but he felt relieved in his heart. The world is about to be destroyed, why blame her for no reason? Everyone is fighting for that opportunity, and Jiang Hong is just one of them. Thinking of this, Xiaohua swallowed his words and left, ignoring Jiang Hong. Behind Jiang Hong, the dragon envoy, Ao Xiang, and Ao Qian hurried over and respectfully saluted. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "No need to be so polite. This old man has urgent matters to attend to and needs to rush back to the Fortune Gate. I won't stay in the Western Sea Dragon Palace any longer." "Yes, Junior will send Dragon Master Xiao off." Seeing Xiaohua's cold face towards Jiang Hong, Ao Qian and Ao Xiang were happy and hurried to send Xiaohua off. "No need. Just watch over the Western Sea Dragon Palace. Don't let anything happen." Xiaohua stopped the two Dragon Palace's crown princes from seeing him off. Behind him, Princess Zixia was keenly aware of Xiaohua's displeasure and Jiang Hong's uneasiness. She smiled faintly and pulled Jiang Hong's hand, saying, "Let's go, send me off." "Yes, master's wife." Jiang Hong's heart was in a mess, so she boldly replied. But in the next moment she was shocked again. She understood the Immortal Palace's etiquette very well, and she knew she had caused trouble. Who would have thought that when Jiang Hong raised her head to apologize, what she saw was Princess Zixia's bashful smile and reproach. Jiang Hong's heart skipped a beat, but she swallowed the words of apology and hurriedly accompanied Princess Zixia out of the Western Sea Dragon Palace. Outside the Dragon Palace, Princess Zixia raised her hand and took the coral bead from the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's Dragon Empress from around her neck. She put it on Jiang Hong's neck with a smile and said, "This was given by the Dragon Empress at the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. I don't like such luxurious things, so I didn't want to accept it, but since it's the Dragon Empress's kind intentions, I can't refuse. On the way here, your master mentioned the Western Sea Dragon Palace, saying that it's not easy for you to guard this place. This coral bead is a gift to you. In the future, don't be too impatient when doing things. Remember that you are a Fortune Gate disciple, don't damage the Fortune Gate's face and don't harm the Fortune Gate's disciples' lives." "Yes." Jiang Hong's eyes became hot, and she hastily answered in a low voice. "N." Xiaohua's gaze swept over Jiang Hong, then turned to look at the Dragon Palace's Dragon Palace in the distance, and said, "You did well." "Yes, master." Jiang Hong's anxious heart was immediately put down, and she sweetly answered, "But," Xiaohua warned again, "if you can avoid harming lives, don't harm lives. You still don't understand the karma of life and death. It's too troublesome, even Vairocana is afraid of it." Jiang Hong's heart trembled, and she hurriedly said respectfully, "Disciple understands. Disciple will remember master's teachings, and no matter how stupid disciple is, I will never harm my Fortune Gate's disciples." Xiaohua didn't dare to give Jiang Hong any more face, nodding his head and preparing to leave the Dragon Palace. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, vote, donate, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 47-22. At this time, Jiang Hong hurriedly said, "Master, Martial Uncle Xiaobai has come out from his training. He came to Lu Yi to send this disciple a message, asking you to come here when you return to the West Sea. Moreover, Lu Yi and the other Fortune Gate disciples have found an island to settle down on. I wonder if Master knows the location." Jiang Hong took out 2 jade eyes and handed them to Xiaohua. Xiaohua glanced at Jiang Hong. Martial Uncle Xiaobai naturally referred to the little white dragon, who was personally appointed by Xiaohua to be the West Sea Dragon Palace's palace master, and also supported by the 7-colored sea god Seashell. Similarly, the little white dragon had the West Sea Fire Dragon Soul. And now it also had the West Sea Dragon Palace's dragon throne. The only unsatisfactory thing was that the little white dragon's cultivation was lower than Jiang Hong's. When Xiao Hua mentioned this matter in the Thousand Demons Sacred Land, he did not hide anything. Xiao Hua did not believe that Jiang Hong did not know about this. However, listening to Jiang Hong's tone, there was no dissatisfaction or jealousy. Disciple. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then said, "This time, Master went to the Dragon Island and reached an agreement with the Dragon Island's 9th elder. Ao Zhan will lead the Hui tribe's dragon clan to the West Sea, and even the 4 seas to fight against the world-destroying mayflies. After the battle, if Ao Zhan does not fall, he can enter the Dragon Island's Dragon Palace and become the Dragon Island's 10th Dragon Clan elder, officially taking over as the Hui tribe's patriarch. You must assist him more." "Yes, disciple understands." Hearing Xiao Hua call her disciple and confirm Ao Zhan's position, Jiang Hong was delighted and bowed respectfully. Xiao Hua did not say anything else. He picked up the 2 jade eyes and glanced at them, then handed them to Princess Zixia. Princess Zixia understood. After looking at the jade eyes, she waved at Jiang Hong and flew out from the seabed with Xiao Hua, heading in a certain direction. After Xiao Hua left, the smile on Jiang Hong's face disappeared. She turned around and saw Ao Xiang and Ao Qian in the distance. Her sharp gaze actually forced the 2 Dragon Palace's crown princes to shrink their heads. The jade eyes the little white dragon left to Xiao Hua contained the name and map of a sea. Under Princess Zixia's lead, Xiao Hua found it without much effort. It was early in the morning, and the wind was calm and the waves were calm. Reefs that looked like bamboo shoots emerged from the surface of the sea. White or gray seabirds were flying in the air. Some seabirds seemed to be tired and stopped on the reefs. They lowered their heads and used their beaks to peck at the sea creatures and insects on the reefs. School after school of silverfish seemed to be migrating. They surged from one end of the sea like a silver undercurrent, instantly covering the entire sea. Caw-caw. Soon, the seabirds following the school of fish in the sky chirped cheerfully as they flew. They either swooped down to look for food, or stopped and landed on the reef to rest. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of death when he saw the scene of a fish leaping and birds flying away. He shook his head with all his might and shook off those pessimistic thoughts. "Xiao Hua, it's here." Princess Zixia looked to her left and right, then took out her jade pupil eyes to make a comparison, then said to Xiao Hua in a soft voice. However, before Xiao Hua could say anything, Xiao Hua suddenly raised his head and looked in a certain direction. At this moment, a strand of primordial thought swept across the surface of the sea. After it landed on Xiao Hua's body, it immediately retracted. Roar! A dragon's roar came from afar. A huge tricolored dragon stretched its body and stepped on the clouds. Huh! Why isn't the little white dragon here? Princess Zixia was a little dazed, but Xiao Hua looked at the huge dragon with a frown. Husband? When did you come out of seclusion? Why didn't you tell me? Who knew that the huge dragon's body was still in the air, and it cried out in pleasant surprise. The dragon's body quickly transformed into a beautiful human woman, and she landed in front of Xiao Hua. Then, she unceremoniously wanted to pounce on Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. He hurriedly waved his hand to block the dragon woman and said anxiously, "I'm not the little white dragon." The dragon woman didn't listen to Xiao Hua's words at all. Instead, she glanced at Princess Zixia, and a sorrowful expression appeared on her face. She cried out, "I knew it. If you didn't have a new lover, how could you not come to find me? I've waited here for you for so long. But you actually forgot about the love between us." Damn it. Xiao Hua helplessly glanced at Princess Zixia, shrugged, and said to the dragon woman, "Miss, you've got the wrong person. I'm a human, not the little white dragon you're talking about." The dragon woman looked up and down at Xiao Hua, then sneered and said, "Xiao Hua, don't lie to me. I can clearly count how many hairs you have on your body, so how could you not be Xiao Hua?" Boom. While they were talking, a rumbling sound came from the distant horizon. A huge kuan-pung bird flew over, and as it flapped its wings, waves rose up like a row of mountains. When the bird saw Xiao Hua, it was ecstatic and cried out, "Xiao Hua, you've finally been released by that old shell?" Xiao Hua was really helpless. He was too lazy to explain. He just watched as the bird landed not far away and transformed into a beautiful human woman. Ao Xiao, I've already told you that Xiaohua is mine. If you dare to snatch him from me again, I'll eat you. The bird woman was very unruly. As soon as she landed, she immediately targeted the dragon woman. He Kuan. The dragon woman named Ao Xiao glanced at Princess Zixia and said, I've also just seen Xiaohua. Didn't you see? Xiaohua already has a new lover, so you and I have become old lovers. Who are you? You actually dare to snatch my lover? The woman named Kuan immediately glared at Princess Zixia. How could Xiaohua let Princess Zixia speak? He hurriedly waved his sleeve blocking Kuan and shouted, I'm Xiao. Strangely, before Xiaohua could finish speaking, Princess Zixia interrupted and said, Who are you waiting for? I'm Princess Zixia of the Immortal Palace. Ioyo. Hearing Princess Zixia call herself the Princess of the Immortal Palace, Kuan immediately cried. She pointed at Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, you heartless thing. You actually hooked up with the Princess of the Immortal Emperor. Do you still want me? Do you still want our child? Humph. Princess Zixia glared at Xiaohua and said angrily, Look, you've exposed yourself? You're too fickle. You actually have a family outside behind my back? What? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What are you talking about? Whoa. Before Xiaohua could figure out what trick Princess Zixia was playing, he heard a hurricane from another direction, and the waves surged again. A sea beast as tall as a mountain rushed out from the bottom of the sea. When Xiaohua scanned it with his origin sense, he was delighted. It can't be? Could it be? Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Sure enough, when the sea beast flew out, its body emitted an obscure fluctuation, and in a moment it transformed into a woman. The woman was a little shy, and said in a shrill voice, Xiaohua, when did you come out? Why didn't you tell me? Could it be that you really abandoned me? Seeing that the mountainous sea beast had transformed into a woman, and the woman was on the verge of tears, Xiaohua couldn't hold himself back any longer. He released his divine sense and roared at the bottom of the sea, Little white dragon, hurry up and come out. If you don't come out, I'll make sure you don't have the ability to find a wife or concubine in the future. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the sea on the side of the reef began to boil, and many bubbles emerged from the bottom of the sea. Then, a dragon's roar came from the sea, and a huge dragon rushed out of the sea with a huge pillar of water. Isn't that Little White Dragon? Big brother. After Little White Dragon's dragon body landed in the air, golden light scattered, and in a moment, it transformed into a human figure identical to Xiaohua. Seeing two identical Xiaohus, Princess Zixia covered her mouth and looked at Xiaohua and Xiaobai in disbelief. Even Ao Xiao, Kuan, and the last woman looked left and right, and exclaimed, "Why are there two Xiaohus?" However, in a short moment, a smile appeared in Princess Zixia's eyes. "Greetings, Princess Zixia." Little White Dragon ignored the three women, and saluted Princess Zixia politely. "Xiaobai, please rise." Princess Zixia did not dare to slight Xiaobai, and hurriedly returned the salute with a smile. "I've heard from Xiaohus that you and he are brothers who have gone through thick and thin together. Moreover, you were suppressed in the Thousand Demons sacred grounds for several hundred years because of him. We're all family, no need to be so polite." "Thank Your Highness." Xiaobai thought for a moment, but did not dare to be rash, and addressed her as Your Highness. Then Xiaobai waved his hand and said to the three sea tribe women, "Quickly come and greet my big brother. Xiaohua, Taoist Master Xiao. He is the Fortune Gate's great lord. This is the Immortal Emperor's 9th princess, and she is my big brother's lover. Greetings, Taoist Master Xiao. Greetings, sister-in-law." The three sea tribe women hurried over and bowed. Seeing that Princess Zixia was unwilling to say more, Xiaohua raised his hand and helped the three sea tribe women up. Looking at Princess Zixia's smiling face, he asked curiously, "What's wrong? Could it be that you can tell who is Xiaobai and who is this Xiao? Not to mention these women, even the Mahavairakana revered Buddha wouldn't be able to tell if he didn't have great divine abilities. Others might not be able to tell, but how could this concubine not be able to?" Princess Zixia chuckled. This Xiao doesn't believe it." Xiaohua glanced at Xiaobai and both nodded. Their figures flickered, crossing each other several times in the air. and landed on the ground with smiles on their faces as they looked at Princess Zixia. Who would have thought that Princess Zixia merely glanced at them, and then said to Aoshio and the other two, "Wait and see, who is your husband?" Aoshio and the others looked at them, but did not dare to blindly recognize them and shook their heads. Princess Zixia smiled and pointed at one of them, saying, "You are Xiao Lang?" "No way." Xiao Hua was really surprised. He flew in front of Princess Zixia and asked, "How did you do it? Do you even need to ask?" Princess Zixia rebuked. "Could it be that you forgot about the grass?" Even Tai Bai Jinxing and Nanwadaji Manjushri couldn't tell who was real and who was fake, but she could. There was no other reason, it was that kind of hatred. And you and Little White Dragon together, although you two look exactly the same, but because of love, this concubine can naturally easily tell who is the real one. So that's how it is. Little White Dragon snorted coldly, and scolded Aoshio and the others. "It seems like you don't care about this concubine at all." Xiao Lang, Xiao Lang, Xiao Lang. The 3 Sea Tribe women were very anxious, and hurriedly helped Little White Dragon from 3 directions, saying, "This concubine really loves you. This concubine can't wait to cut off her own flesh for you to eat. What's the use of eating your flesh? Even this concubine can't tell who is the real one. What do I need you for?" Little White Dragon scolded and pushed the 3 Beastkin women away. Cough cough. Xiao Hua coughed and glared at Little White Dragon. He thought of Jade Wave and that conch woman again. Really a disgrace. Little White Dragon scolded and said to the 3 Sea Tribe women, "Why aren't you leaving? Wait for me to finish talking with Big Brother. Then I'll go find you." "Yes, Xiao Lang." The 3 Sea Tribe women happily agreed. After saluting Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia, they hurriedly flew away, fearing that any one of them would anger Little White Dragon. After the 3 Sea Clan women left, Xiao Hua wanted to say a few words, but when he thought about how Xiaobai was from the Dragon Clan and was completely different from the Human Clan, he swallowed his words and asked, "Xiaobai, you called me over, is there a reason?" "Big Brother." Little White Dragon couldn't hide the joy on his face, and said with a smile, "The restriction in Little Brother's mind has been broken by the old ancestor. Little Brother's memory has been restored." "Haha, congratulations." Xiao Hua was also overjoyed, and said, "I knew that the 7-colored sea god shell would definitely have a way to break the restriction set by Bei Ming. Yes, the old ancestor said that this restriction is a secret technique of the Shell Clan's royal family. Other than her and Bei Ming, I'm afraid that no other demon or human race in the 3 continents can break it." Little White Dragon nodded. "Your origin, Bei Ming's origin, you also know about it?" Xiao Hua thought for a moment and asked, "The 7-colored sea god shell must have asked you." "Yes." Little White Dragon nodded again and said, "However, although Little Brother's restriction was broken at that time, my memory had not completely recovered, so I didn't tell her about it. And if you can, you should still tell her." Xiao Hua smiled, "Otherwise she will think too much." "Yes, Little Brother knows." Little White Dragon smiled and took out a jade eye, and handed it to Xiao Hua. "This is what Little Brother remembered about the 10,000 demon realm. Big Brother, take it." "What do I need this for?" Xiao Hua waved his hand and said. Little White Dragon thought for a moment and replied, "Big Brother is right. There is no space passage from here to the 10,000 demon realm. This jade eye is useless. Even if Little Brother knows the space vein that Senior Bei Ming used to go to the Dawn Rain continent, it is useless." "What?" Xiao Hua was shocked and said anxiously, "From the 10,000 demon realm, there is a space vein in the Dawn Rain continent?" "Yes. There is a one-way unstable space vein." Little White Dragon nodded. Bei Ming went to the Dawn Rain continent from that space vein. And Xiao Hua hurriedly took the jade eye and looked at it on his forehead for a moment, and nodded slightly. "If we can reach this place, we can indeed return to the Dawn Rain continent. Unfortunately." Speaking of this, Xiao Hua was suddenly shocked and quickly asked, "Little White Dragon, do you know about the Gold and Wood Mountain in the 10,000 demon realm?" "I know." Little White Dragon said, "That is one of the more dangerous places in the 10,000 demon realm? Why, Big Brother also knows about it." "Damn it." Xiao Hua pinched his chin and looked at Princess Zixia with confusion in his eyes, and whispered, "Could it be? This Xiao has wronged the Grand Mist ancestor? Is there really a secret space passage from the 3 continents to the 10,000 demon realm?" "What?" We can return to the 10,000 demon realm from the 3 continents? Little White Dragon heard this and said anxiously, Big Brother, you have to take me to the 10,000 demon realm. Why do you want to return to the 10,000 demon realm? Xiaohua looked at Little White Dragon and asked curiously. Little White Dragon pondered for a moment and said, Little brother still has some unfinished business in the 10,000 demon realm. Without waiting for Little White Dragon to finish, Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand and said, Don't think too much. This space passage is most likely a trap. It won't be too late to tell you after this. Xiaohua sees it. Okay. Little White Dragon nodded. Little brother actually doesn't have any expectations. I heard that the world exterminating mayfly is very powerful now. If there is a space passage, the ancestor and the others would have left through it. How could they still be here? But, Big Brother, if there is really a space passage, you must tell me. Hearing the Little White Dragon's words, Xiaohua's body trembled again. He really hadn't thought about this. If there was a spatial passage that led to another world, would the sovereigns of the various sects be like him and choose to fight the strange insects here? Or would he find a way out for himself and escape quietly? In fact, there was no need to guess what others would do. Xiaohua himself had the idea of putting the Fortune Gate's disciples into his space for protection. How could the other venerables not have such thoughts? Enough. Xiaohua collected his thoughts and said, You'd better hurry up and cultivate. If you can't improve your strength, how can you be the West Sea's lord? When the time comes, your strength won't even be comparable to one of Big Brother's disciples. Haha, don't worry, Big Brother. Little White Dragon laughed. The next time we meet, Little Brother will definitely give you a surprise. Then Little White Dragon took his leave and dove into the sea. Xiaohua left with Princess Xixia as fast as lightning. After Xiaohua left, Little White Dragon sneakily flew out from the sea and looked in 3 different directions. Humming a little tune, Little White Dragon flew towards one of the 3 directions. Xiaohua chuckled as he flew with Princess Xixia to a place in the West Sea. While flying, he frowned and pondered. After the time it took to eat a meal, Princess Xixia reminded Xiaohua, Darling Xiao, you flew in the wrong direction again. Oh. Xiaohua came back to his senses and smiled. I was a little distracted. I know. Princess Xixia pursed her lips and smiled. In the words of Confucian cultivators, you are worried about the country and the people, and you are also worried about your family. Confucian cultivators' words are always brilliant. Xiaohua nodded. Many small things can be said in a dignified manner. Darling Xiao, you misunderstood Confucian cultivators. Princess Xixia said in dissatisfaction. Although many Confucian cultivators use literature and ink, falling into the small path, we Confucian cultivators also have many great Confucian cultivators who cultivate righteous spirit and face the world with loyalty. Yes, this Xiao was wrong. Xiaohua hurriedly apologized. Princess Xixia rolled her eyes at him and curled her lips. This is called sailing according to the wind. Yes, Your Highness, the princess is right. Xiaohua nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Seeing this, Princess Xixia smiled slightly and persuaded, Darling Xiao, you don't have to worry too much about Zhang Hong's matter. The current situation in the West Sea Dragon Palace is unclear. It is also good to let her get involved in it. Her methods are more ruthless, which is exactly what a leader should have. On the other hand, to be honest, you are not a qualified leader but more like a guide. You are better than the sect master as the merciful bodhisattva of Nanwu. I have always been such a person. Xiaohua didn't refute and replied. I also don't want to be a qualified leader. This is already very good. Princess Xixia also agreed with Xiaohua's point of view. A person's character can't be changed just because you say so. Zhang Hong is a natural leader. Although she looked like a weak little girl when she was young, when she grew up, she would inevitably become an all-powerful dragon. So, Darling Xiao, let nature take its course. Xiaohua looked at the smoke rising in front of him and nodded. Yes, things have not reached the final step. Sometimes I think too much. Let's see how Zhang Hong and Xiaobai develop in the future. It is too early to say now. What about the 10,000 demon world? Princess Xixia asked, I think. This is the thing you are most worried about, right? Although Little White Dragon has recovered his memory, and even gave us the space passage from the 10,000 demon world to the Dawn Rain continent, Xiaohua's face still didn't relax and replied, but in fact, if you think about it carefully, this space passage is useless. It has no use at all. Princess Zixia understood Xiaohua's thoughts and said, yes, not to mention whether the space passage Grand Mist Ancestor said exists or not. Even if it does exist, darling Xiao can go to the 10,000 demon world. But the space passage from the 10,000 demon world to the Dawn Rain continent is only a one-way passage. Once you reach the Dawn Rain continent, you can't return to the 10,000 demon world, so how can you return to the 3 continents? The Dawn Rain continent's spiritual herbs and other things can't be sent back to the 3 continents. So, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. The world-destroying mayfly's deadlock is still unsolved. However, at this time I have a glimmer of hope. Princess Zixia said solemnly, I really hope that Grand Mist Ancestor's words are true. At least with this space passage, darling Xiao and His Majesty, or the other sovereigns, may be able to save the world. Yes, if this space passage really exists, even if it is like ants moving house, I will bring as many creatures as possible to the 10,000 demon world. But when he said this, Xiaohua's expression suddenly stiffened, as if he thought of something. Princess Zixia also woke up. The two of them looked at each other and said in unison, the world-destroying mayfly won't go to the 10,000 demon world through this space passage, right? Then Xiaohua said helplessly, if the world-destroying mayfly attacks the 10,000 demon world and the 3 continents at the same time, then even if there is a space passage it will be useless. But if because we enter the 10,000 demon world, the world-destroying mayfly is also attracted to the 10,000 demon world, then it will be a big mistake. So, Princess Zixia gritted her teeth and said, even if there is a space passage to the 10,000 demon world, we must be careful, very careful. As she spoke, Princess Zixia looked ahead and pointed with her finger. The Yuanxi Reef Plain is up ahead. If you don't fly in the wrong direction, you will arrive in half a day. Xiaohua looked at the sky, then at the surrounding sea. He really couldn't understand how Princess Zixia could tell. Sure enough, in less than an hour, Xiaohua saw Fortune Gate's disciples patrolling the area in front of them with his divine sense. When the Fortune Gate's disciples heard that the sect master had returned, they were overjoyed. They either went to welcome him or returned to report the news. When Xiaohua arrived at the first Dawn Reef with the patrolling Fortune Gate's disciples, half a day had passed. The first Dawn Reef lived up to its name. It was a large island formed by reefs exposed above the sea's surface. This island was more than 10 times bigger than usual, and it looked like a plane. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over the reef, and he saw rugged mountains and lush trees on the reef. Everything that should be found on land was here, but of different species. Moreover, as the sea breeze whistled, the heaven and earth origin energy within tens of thousands of li rushed towards the reef. It was actually a paradise. Looking at the primitive reef plains, the Fortune Gate's Fortune Dao Palace, Herb Garden, Alchemy Room, and other buildings had all been completed. At first glance there wasn't much difference from before. Even the capital star array that protected the reef plains was the capital star array that Xiaohua was familiar with. If it weren't for the salty sea breeze and the lack of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's lofty peaks, Xiaohua would have thought that he had returned to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Welcome back to the Fortune Gate's Palace, Sect Master. Without waiting for Xiaohua to withdraw his divine sense, Celestial Being flew out from the capital star formation on a cloud, followed by Lu Yi, Wang Yifei, and the other disciples. Before Xiaohua left the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, he had entrusted the Fortune Gate's disciples to Celestial Being and Taoist Yun. Later, Taoist Yun had followed Lu Yi to the West Sea, leaving Celestial Being behind. Later, Taoist Yun had met Xiaohua at the West Sea Dragon Palace, leaving Lu Yi and the other disciples behind to accompany Xiaohua to the Dragon Island. Later, Xiaohua had gone to the Thunder Monastery, and Taoist Yun had stayed in Xiaohua's space to comprehend the information he had obtained in the True Dragon Palace. At this time, Celestial Being had followed Wang Yifei and the other disciples to the first Dusk Reef Plain. Hee. Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist. Xiaohua bowed. You're welcome. Although Celestial Being had lost his humanity, he still returned the greeting. I am the sect master after all. It is my duty to do something for the Fortune Gate. Fellow Taoist, please enter the new Fortune Gate Palace. All right. Xiaohua nodded and said to Lu Yi and the other disciples, Master will report to you after entering the Fortune Gate Palace. Yes, Sect Master. The group of disciples answered in unison. Xiao Hua led the group of disciples into the Fortune Gate Palace. Princess Zixia naturally followed by Anne and the others, not wanting to pry into the Fortune Gate's affairs. Standing on top of the Fortune Gate Palace, Xiao Hua looked at the prepared jade chair and smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Fortune Throne. The dark golden throne landed on the Fortune Gate Palace's high platform. Boom! A thunderous rumble resounded as a seven-colored ray of light shot out from the throne. The ray of light shot out from the top of the Fortune Gate Palace and pierced into the blue dome of heaven. Along with this ray of light, a domineering aura that could pierce through the heavens was emitted from the throne, enveloping everything within 1,000 zhang radius. This was originally an overseas phenomenon that could easily change. Now it was even more turbulent. The tearing dark clouds were like galloping horses, like a horned dragon, and also like a myriad of beasts worshipping them as they danced in the sky. Looking at the Fortune Dao Palace's seat of honor, where the Grand Mist throne was, the void was collapsing as countless amounts of heaven and earth origin energy rushed in. Countless illusions were annihilated as the five elements origin beasts flew around the throne in a frenzy. Witnessing the phenomenon of the throne and its domineering aura, all the Fortune Gate's disciples were dumbfounded. In a flash, everyone came back to their senses. With Lu Yi in the lead, the group of disciples prostrated on the ground and respectfully said, "We greet Sect Master. May Sect Master rule the world and live a long and boundless life." Xiao Hua frowned slightly and raised his hand, wanting to say something. However, when he saw the excitement in the disciples' eyes, he knew that they had seen the future they wanted to see. He smiled faintly and landed on the Fortune Gate Palace's throne. Then he slapped the throne with both hands. Shwa shwa! The five elements origin beasts danced to the sides, and another 8 thrones appeared. Just as the 8 thrones appeared, they rapidly condensed into 9 identical fortune thrones that were placed side by side on the Fortune Gate Palace's high platform. Haha! The celestial being roared with laughter. He looked around and picked a throne to sit on while Xiao Hua slapped the top of his head. Boom! A pillar of lightning shot up into the sky and merged with the 7-colored ray of light. The originally turbulent blue dome of heaven immediately calmed down. Even the sea within 1,000 li of the pillar of lightning's descent was calm and tranquil. Stand up! Xiao Hua raised his hand and waved, and all the disciples stood up. Sect Master. Louis chuckled and asked, "What is that thing you're sitting on? Why does it have a natural domineering aura that makes others submit?" Disciple heard Zhang Hong talk about the dragon throne of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Could it be that this throne is comparable to the dragon throne of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas? Xiao Hua nodded and said, "This is the primordial chaos throne that I obtained when I participated in the Jade Lake gathering at the Lingyun Side Hall. It is said that it belonged to the ancient Dao Gate and was suppressed under the Jade Lake by the Eastern Sea Empress. I don't know its origin, but it doesn't seem to be inferior to the dragon throne of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas or even immortal Emperor Go Chen's golden throne. After I obtained it, I changed it to the Fortune Gate Palace. Congratulations, Sect Master." Lu Yi and the others were overjoyed and congratulated him. "Forget it." Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand saying, "Although this thing has an extraordinary origin, it is still a minor Dao. It is incomparable to the grand Dao that you all have comprehended. Don't be fooled by this so-called domineering aura. Focusing on the heavenly Dao is the right path." "Yes, this disciple understands." Lu Yi and the others answered and then explained the process of moving to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua nodded inwardly. From then on, other than the Xiao country's Fortune Gate's disciples guarding the Fortune Gate, there were also disciples from the 3 mainlands who were building transmission arrays for the demonic beast race, Confucian cultivators, and Buddhist sections. All the Fortune Gate's disciples moved to the Yuanxi Reef Plains, and the Dao Gate's foundation in the West Sea had taken shape. "What about the Grand Mist Ancestor's sky-bearing palace?" Xiao Hua asked in a low voice. "Reporting to Master." Louis smiled and said, "Senior brother Fu is in charge of the sky-bearing palace." This disciple did not interfere. However, after hearing the news from the Luoyang Merchant Union and Star Plucking Pavilion, the Grand Mist Ancestor brought some disciples to the West Sea. A few days ago, some of their disciples came to visit, and this disciple sent people to take a look. They chose a small island, and it's quite a distance from our fortune gate. Seems the Grand Mist Ancestor is not planning to stay there for a long time. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at the rippling waves in the distance, and said coldly, "You can defy heaven's evil, but you can't survive the evil you bring upon yourself. I hope the Grand Mist Ancestor will not challenge this old man's bottom line." This disciple also thinks the same. Louis smiled and said, "This disciple feels that the most important thing right now is to exterminate the strange insects. Fighting for power is meaningless. Only after we survive the calamity will everything have meaning." "You're right." Xiaohua smiled and nodded. "When you say it. If you have the chance, you must mention it to Jiang Hong." Lu Yi's face turned red, and he hurriedly bowed and said, "This disciple understands. I'm sure all of you know how powerful the strange insects are." Xiaohua's gaze swept over the group of disciples, and he asked, "What do all of you think?" As if they had already come to a conclusion, none of the disciples took the initiative to speak, and their gazes fell on Lu Yi. Louis smiled and said, "Master, this question seems to have been asked many times on different occasions. In the ruins during the war against the devil race, in the desolate mainland before the calamity, in the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Dao Palace, when the Confucian cultivators were pressuring you. You've asked about all of them. Now the three mainlands are besieged by the strange insects, and when the world is about to be destroyed, you're going to ask again. In fact, before Master came back, we disciples had already discussed it, and all of us said that Master will ask again." Sure enough, as disciples expected, Master will ask again. Master, this disciple doesn't know why Master doesn't believe in disciples' sincerity and loyalty time and time again. Whether it's a test or for Gu Shizhou's sake, Master can rest assured. Since Master is our three mainlands' great merciful Bodhisattva, you have the three mainlands' billions of lives in your heart. Then Master, as your disciples, even if we don't have your kind of compassion that ordinary people can't reach, we still have the awareness to protect the three mainlands that gave birth to us and raised us. Whatever Master wants to do, we will definitely support. Even if we have to shed our blood, even if our bones are crushed, we won't be afraid. But Master, please don't ask this kind of question in the future." Haha. Xiaohua clapped his hands and laughed. This is this Zhao's disciple, and only this kind of disciple is worthy of the title of Fortune Gate's disciple. Many thanks for Master's praise. Lu Yi and the other disciples bowed respectfully. Lu Yi Wang Bianfei Yu Zhongquan Chang Yuan Zhai Xingzi Gongshu Isin. Xiaohua casually picked a few disciples and said with a smile, "The reason Master mentioned it again is not because I don't believe in you, nor is it to test you, but because you don't know what kind of strange insects you're facing. You only know how powerful these strange insects are, but you don't know their origin." Facing these disciples who were prepared to sacrifice their lives for the three mainlands, Xiaohua didn't hide anything. He told them the origin of the red mayflies and the four mainlands matters in detail. There were even many things that Xiaohua didn't tell the Dragon Hall elders and the Thunder Monastery's Vairocana Buddha. After all, they were the backbone of the battle against the red mayflies, so they had the right to know. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, Lu Yi and the other disciples turned pale with fright, but in the next moment, they looked at each other with a smile on their faces. They calmly looked at Xiaohua as if nothing had exceeded their expectations. After Xiaohua finished, Lu Yi said, "Master, although disciple didn't know the origin of these strange insects, and didn't know they were the red mayflies from the upper realm, disciple hurried to rush to your rescue. However, when this disciple saw Master in such a hurry, leaving your disciple behind in the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and making us come to the West Sea from the hidden immortal continent, we already understood that this strange insect disaster is definitely comparable to the danger we encountered in the great desolate continent that day. Therefore, what you said was not beyond our expectations." Xiaohua looked at these disciples, and his heart was filled with emotion. Unknowingly, these disciples were no longer the same as when he first met them. They had long since become figures who could take charge of the three mainlands. Their backbones had already become the pillars that supported the three mainlands. He had truly underestimated them. But Xiaohua still said, "This time is different from before. When we were in the ruins, we could leave and Master could guarantee your safety. On the primitive continent, you wouldn't be in too much danger. Even if you were to be killed, Master would still protect you. But this time, I'm afraid we can only stake everything and fight against the red mayflies. Master won't be able to protect you anymore. Since there's no way out, then there's no need to hesitate. Louis smiled. Of course you can. But the other Fortune Gate disciples. Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at Louis and the others. Just as he was about to speak, he swallowed the rest of his words. Even though Shenhua continent was in his space on the surface, Shenhua continent was in the Kunlun immortal domain, and the Kunlun immortal domain was the Kunlun mirror space. Therefore, the Fortune Gate disciples on Shenhua continent, or perhaps Louis and the other Fortune Gate disciples themselves, all of them thought that they were part of the three mainlands. They didn't know that they came from an independent world surface. If Xiaohua were to reveal the differences between the other Fortune Gate disciples, the secret of his space would definitely be exposed. Therefore, Xiaohua hesitated. However, a few breaths later, Xiaohua spoke again. But the other Fortune Gate disciples are different. You may come from the hidden immortal mainland, the pure land of ultimate bliss, the 1,000 demonic sacred grounds, or the 3 rivers and 4 seas, or the 3 mainlands. But those Fortune Gate disciples grew up in the Kunlun immortal domain. They don't have any concept of the 3 mainlands. The 3 rivers and 4 seas didn't have any grace to raise them. If we force them to sacrifice their lives for an unfamiliar world surface, it would be unfair to them. Master, please rest assured. Louis was not surprised by Xiaohua's misgivings. He smiled and said, because this disciple has already encountered these matters before, this disciple has also considered these matters. When we moved from the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range to the Yuanxi Reef Plain, this disciple had already spoken to those senior and junior brothers. If anyone has other thoughts, they can speak to this disciple in private, and this disciple will convey their opinions to Master. But this disciple is also very gratified that not a single disciple has approached this disciple in private. This disciple has also asked a few Fortune Gate disciples in the Kunlun immortal domain. Their meaning is also very clear. Although they don't have any feelings for the 3 mainlands, they have feelings for the Fortune Gate. The Fortune Gate is their home. They are members of the Fortune Gate. Since the Fortune Gate has declared war on the 3 mainlands against the strange insects, they have an obligation to fight side by side with the other Fortune Gate disciples. They are willing to sacrifice everything for the Fortune Gate. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Chapter 47-23. Good. Xiaohua stood up and nodded. With such a disciple in our Fortune Gate, why should we worry about not being able to exterminate the mayfly race? Of course, Master. Louis suggested. These disciples are different from us. We should be fighting for the 3 mainlands, but they are fighting for the Fortune Gate. Disciple feels that we should give them an extra reward. Haha. Xiaohua laughed heartily. With a wave of his hand, he took out a bunch of holy lotus seed embers from Shenhua continent. Then a fist-sized green seal text appeared between his eyebrows. Boom! The green seal text fell into the embers, and the sound of gods and ghosts crying could be heard. The embers turned into countless tiny pieces. Xiaohua raised his hand and made a grabbing motion, and the tiny particles turned into tiny crystal grains. Louis. Xiaohua waved his hand and the crystal grains landed in front of Louis. This is called the Fortune Immortal Crystal, and it is a reward for fighting the mayfly race. Whether it is the Fortune Gate's disciples from the Shenhua continent or the 3 mainlands, as long as they have great battle merits, they will be given one. The effects of this immortal crystal are profound, and you have to comprehend it yourself. Master will only say 2 things. First, if you can survive the battle and comprehend the Fortune Immortal Crystal, reaching the 9th grade of Origin Force is not a dream. Second, even if you die in the battle, Master has a 40% chance of helping you reincarnate and enter the Grand Ascension stage in your next life. See, not to mention the other disciples, even Louis sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. After all, the Fortune Immortal Crystal was a guarantee for a Grand Ascension stage cultivator. Wasn't the fortune of a cultivator in the Fortune Immortal Crystal? Seeing the shock on everyone's face, Xiaohua immediately knew that he had bragged too much. After all, he was just a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator. He smiled and said, This is what the Fortune Gate's fourth master said. So he must be confident. Hearing the words of Nanwa Maitreya Buddha, Lu Yi and the other disciples who knew the truth were awakened from a dream. Ecstasy appeared on their faces as they bowed and said, "Disciple thanks the fourth master for his generosity." Gong Shu Isin and the others were naturally kept in the dark, but when they heard that the Fortune Gate had such a powerful sect master, they were overjoyed and started thinking about how they could earn the fortune immortal crystals. Swoosh! Xiao Hua raised his hand again, and a crystal thread fell between Lu Yi's eyebrows. He said, "The method of activating the creation immortal crystal is quite troublesome. You should comprehend it first. If you haven't comprehended it yet, ask Martial Uncle Deva to help you." "Yes, as long as the sect master is here, they can do it." "Yes, master." Louis did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly replied, "Disciple will comprehend it now and announce it to the public." "All right." Xiao Hua nodded and instructed, "Send out an invitation on behalf of master. Invite the Grand Mist Ancestor to make a trip to the Yushi Reef Plains." "Yes." Louis accepted the order and led the other disciples out of the Fortune Dao Palace, each of them busy with their own tasks. The Celestial asked curiously, "Why is fellow Taoist looking for that bastard Hong Meng?" Xiao Hua chuckled. "I will be the touchstone to see if the Grand Mist Ancestor is a piece of gold." Immediately, Xiao Hua explained the reason for this matter to the Celestial in his heart. "Damn it!" The Celestial did not wait for Xiao Hua to finish and immediately shouted, "This bastard must have a bad idea and is preparing to ambush fellow Taoists somewhere. Don't be fooled." "I also thought so before," Xiao Hua explained with a smile, "but for the 3 continents I have to try. What if there is really something? Although we may not be able to bring the spiritual herbs from the Dawn Rain continent to the 3 continents, it is still a way to survive." "How is that possible?" The Celestial shook his head. "If there is, why didn't he tell Immortal Emperor Gaochen? Why didn't he tell Vairocana? Why did he only tell fellow Taoist?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the Golden-Winged Great Pong, and Vairocana all suppressed the Grand Mist Ancestor in the past. Xiao Hua explained patiently, "The Grand Mist Ancestor will definitely not trust them. Moreover, I am also a Taoist cultivator. If he has secrets, he will definitely tell I and go with I to investigate." Speaking of this, Xiao Hua laughed again. "Moreover, even if the Grand Mist Ancestor has reached the peak of 9th grade essence force, why would I be afraid of him? Moreover, even if I can't do it alone, don't we still have the Kunlun mirror?" Speaking of this, Xiao Hua's heart moved as if he had a trace of understanding. Sure enough, the Celestial also laughed. "How is it? Fellow Taoist has thought of something, right? Is it the 7-colored sea god's 7-colored halo shell world? Perhaps the Grand Mist Ancestor has this idea. He must know the location of a certain void where fellow Taoist's Kunlun mirror cannot be used. Fellow Taoist is alone and has fallen into his evil clutches." Xiao Hua smiled. He was abnormally calm, and there was even a trace of mockery at the corner of his mouth. He replied, "Not to mention that the Kunlun mirror can't be used. Even if this poor Taoist space is imprisoned, this Xiao can't possibly be alone. Do you think this Xiao is afraid of him?" Either way, this Xiao Hua feels that the Grand Mist Ancestor is a kind person who did not come with good intentions. Fellow Taoists should take advantage of the time to consider carefully and prepare for the worst. The Celestial suggested. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "I really think so. First, prepare for a rainy day, and make all the necessary preparations to deal with the Grand Mist Ancestor schemed." Speaking of this, Xiao Hua's heart suddenly moved, and he asked with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, you seem to have gained a lot of intelligence recently?" "That's right." The Celestial was also grinning from ear to ear. This Xiao Hua has been refining the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper recently and has made some progress. The day this 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is the day this Xiao Hua becomes an adult. Congratulations, congratulations. Xiao Hua congratulated with a smile. However, the Celestial suddenly changed the topic and smiled bitterly. This Xiao Hua recently discovered that although this 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper has been completed, this whole body is merely the core of the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper, and it is not the complete 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper. Its outer shell. I wonder where it is. Ah? Xiao Hua was shocked. This This 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is merely the core? That's right. The celestial shrugged and said, this is an incomplete 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper. Even if this Xiaohua successfully refines it, I estimate that this Xiaohua can only display 40% of its power. Only by finding the outer shell and refining it together with this core will I be able to display 100% of its power. Alright. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, we'll talk about this later. Who knows where the outer shell of the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is? Right now, let's deal with the world-exterminating ephemera first. Subsequently, Xiaohua sat cross-legged on the throne of fortune and pondered over the details of this trip to deal with the Grandmist Ancestor's secret scheme. At this time, high in the sky of the hidden immortal mainland, within the earth, fire, wind, and lightning that covered even the blue dome of heaven, layers upon layers of awe-inspiring chi pillars rushed out from the void and tore the earth, fire, wind, and lightning apart. One after another, huge subbodies with tens of thousands of armor inscriptions cruising around their bodies stood within the astral winds like gods. An intense awe-inspiring aura drifted out from the subbodies and intertwined with each other within the astral winds. Like a mountain of books and a sea of books, a strange phenomenon flashed within the shattered earth, fire, wind, and lightning. As the strange phenomenon flickered, strands of clouds surged out and condensed into the shape of dragons and phoenixes in the void. A group of Confucian cultivators' luck was like a belt, enveloping several thousand li of space within this auspicious phenomenon. At the center of this group of Confucian cultivators' luck, Immortal Emperor Go-chan was wearing an emperor's robe and holding the supreme heavenly mirror in his hand. He was looking at those subbodies with heaven-like auras, and his eyes were filled with satisfaction. My beloved subjects. Immortal Emperor Go-chan opened his mouth and countless lightning dragons fell into the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. Are you all ready? In front of Immortal Emperor Go-chan was the master of the Tai Ching Palace. He looked around, and the golden light in his eyes swept through the astral winds like the sun. On both sides of the master of the Tai Ching Palace were the master of the Supreme Purity Palace and the people of the Jade Purity Palace. On both sides of the masters of the Two Purity Palace were the master of the Literature Palace, Dongfang Qiong Hao Shimin Jianzhong, Nangong Tianji, and Baiming Chou Qing. However, when the clear gaze of the master of the Supreme Purity Palace landed on the edge of the crowd, there was a slightly short but wise and far-sighted Wenxing with a bulging forehead. His eyes revealed a trace of confusion as he opened his mouth and said, Your Majesty, your subjects and the others have already prepared everything. However, Your Majesty, have you made your decision? Actually, you are the most suitable person to set up the array, and not us. Sigh. Immortal Emperor Go-chan sighed. The supreme heavenly mirror in his hand emitted a bright light that soared into the sky, covering the scattered earth, fire, wind, and lightning. He said, Do you think I don't know? I bear the fate of the Confucian cultivators, and I am the most suitable person to set up the 9 provinces' great array. Moreover, if I control the U province cauldron, I can increase the chance of setting up the array from 30% to 40%. Indeed. The short Wenxing, whose body was extremely large, said calmly, Although this humble subject has inherited the teachings of Confucius and Mencius and has received the blessings of my ancestors, I am different from Your Majesty, who has been bestowed with providence by the heavens. Your Majesty is the most suitable person to lead the formation. Minister Kong, do you think I don't want to replace you? Immortal Emperor Go-chan said with a smile, Unfortunately, this 9 provinces great array is the immortal defense array of the heavenly court, and it is not something the Confucian cultivators of the 3 continents can set up. Our strength is limited, and only by working together can Xiaohua set up the 9 provinces great array. Therefore, the setting up of the array this time tests the unity of the mind. Naturally, we can't have the same mind, so we can only rely on information. On the hidden immortal continent, is there any imperial artifact that can check every detail better than the Supreme Heavenly Mirror? Therefore, to be able to control the Supreme Heavenly Mirror, and let my beloved ministers activate the 9 provinces cauldron at the same time is the responsibility that I should bear the most. Kongqing, the Tai Ching Palace Master said with a smile, I don't have any intention of looking down on you. I just feel that setting up the array here is related to the peace of the billions of living beings on the hidden immortal continent. This is no small matter, and it must be done properly. Taiqing Palace Master, you think too much. Kong Qing was the current clan master of the Kong clan. Now that he was invited by immortal Emperor Go-chan to set up the array, how could he not know the importance? He said with a smile, "The hidden immortal continent is your Majesty's hidden immortal continent, and it is also the hidden immortal continent of us Confucian cultivators. I also have the billions of living beings on the hidden immortal continent in my heart. Any dispute at this time is for the fate of the Confucian cultivators, for the setting up of the 9 provinces great array, so how could I care about it? If you are ready, my beloved ministers, go to the various places of the 9 provinces." Immortal Emperor Go-chan looked at the 9 ninth grade elemental energy literary stars and ordered, "Wait until you find the location of the 9 provinces great array's core. Then stop immediately. I will use the supreme heavenly mirror here to search the earth. When all my beloved ministers are in position, I will use the supreme heavenly mirror to give orders. Once all my beloved ministers see the supreme heavenly mirror's order, immediately activate your divine abilities and nail the 9 provinces great array's core in your hands." Immortal Emperor Go-chan was afraid that everyone was not prepared enough, so he carefully explained the method of setting up the 9 provinces great array again. Soon after, all the literary stars activated their divine abilities and went to various places on the hidden immortal continent. Sigh. Immortal Emperor Go-chan flew down from the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. He looked at the vast earth covered by clouds and sighed. The heavens are protecting the hidden immortal. Xiao Hua did not know whether the heavens were protecting the hidden immortal or not, but he knew that the heavens would not protect the Grand Mist Ancestor anymore. Xiao Hua asked Lui to send a message to the Sky-bearing Palace. Sure enough, in less than 10 days, the Grand Mist Ancestor replied and invited Xiao Hua to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm alone. Xiao Hua looked at the alone person in his jade eyes and sneered. He muttered to himself, "Isn't this? Trying to hide something only makes it more conspicuous? Since we are going to explore the space passage to the 10,000 Demons realm, the more people the better. How can only 2 Dao Gate Grand Ascension stage experts go? It seems like this trip is dangerous." While thinking, Xiao Hua stood up and ordered a few disciples to lead the way to the West Sea Dragon Palace. Xiao Hua once again arrived at the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm through the passage between the West Sea Dragon Palace and the North Sea Dragon Palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to know that Xiao Hua would get lost easily, so the place he pointed out was not very far from the North Sea. Xiao Hua released his divine sense and found it easily. Xiao Hua saw that this was a towering mountain peak, and there were no demons nearby. Moreover, the terrain didn't seem to be dangerous, nor was it a barren place. Xiao Hua's figure landed on the mountain peak, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate with his eyes focused on his nose. After another 10 days, a divine sense swept over from the depths of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. When it saw Xiao Hua waiting alone, it retracted its divine sense. A moment later, the Grand Mist Ancestor's voice sounded, "Taoist Xiao, you are a man of your words. I'm sorry for being late." When Xiao Hua heard the Grand Mist Ancestor refer to himself as I, he couldn't help but look down on him. He opened his eyes and saw a black and white streak of light in the distance. He said indifferently, "I'm just a country bumpkin. I have all the time in the world. How would I dare to make you wait? I've been waiting here for a long time." The Grand Mist Ancestor naturally heard the sarcasm in Xiao Hua's words. He descended and cupped his hands. "Taoist Xiao is the leader of the Tao Gate and a hero in my heart. How could you be a country bumpkin? If Taoist Xiao is a country bumpkin, then I can only be a porter." Xiao Hua waved his hand and went straight to the point. "There's no need to talk about those things. Taoist Grand Mist Ancestor, is what you said in your jade eyes true?" Seeing that Xiao Hua did not trust him, the Grand Mist Ancestor smiled bitterly. "Taoist Xiao, of course what I said is true. I know that I have some shortcomings. I place too much importance on material gains. However, everything I do is the same as what Taoist Xiao is doing. We both want to revive the Tao Gate and let the disciples of the Tao Gate cultivate with their backs straight. Taoist Xiao might not like what I do, but what about Taoist Xiao's actions? Not only do I not like it, but the other Taoist Xiao's actions also don't like it. However, This does not affect Taoist Zhao's position in the Tao Gate. It also does not affect me from becoming the sect master of the sky-bearing palace. Xiao Hua only listened quietly and did not open his mouth. The Grand Mist Ancestor continued. Now that the strange insect has appeared, the 3 continents have reached a critical moment of life and death. At this time, just like what Taoist Xiao said at the Jade Pool, whether it is the Confucian cultivators, the Tao Gate, the Buddhist sect, the demon race, or the dragon race, we should all unite and resist the strange insect together. We should eliminate the omen of the apocalypse. And Taoist Xiao is right. This is my idea. Xiao Hua nodded. Therefore, before the matter of right and wrong, how can I lie to Taoist Xiao? How can I ignore the safety of the billions of lives in the 3 continents? The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled. This space passage to the 10,000 demon realm was obtained from a mysterious cave before I was suppressed. However, before I could explore it, I was suppressed by the Buddhist sect, the Confucian cultivators, and the demon race. After I escaped, I forgot about this matter. After the Jade Pool meeting, I heard Taoist Xiao talk about the method to kill the strange insect. Only then did I remember that I had such a secret information. I immediately found this Jade Eye and sent a message to Taoist Xiao. At the same time, I traveled night and day to investigate that place to see if it is true. How is it? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat and he hurriedly asked with concern. Why don't Taoist Xiao guess? The Grand Mist Ancestor pretended to be relaxed as he replied. Xiao Hua rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, since Taoist Zhao's Jade Eye is real, and it also records the location of the metal and wood essences, the space passage has naturally been found. Good. The Grand Mist Ancestor clapped his hands and said, Taoist Xiao really has the ability to predict the future. I am truly impressed. You're too kind. Xiao Hua smiled and said, how can this Xiao have such a great ability? This Xiao only said this because I saw Taoist Zhao's happy face and did not look regretful at all. Then I won't hide it from Taoist Xiao. The Grand Mist Ancestor chuckled and said, this Xiao has indeed found traces of the space passage. However, this space passage is quite hidden, and you and I can't really find it. Therefore, this Xiao had no choice but to invite another demonic beast to help. Oh? Which demonic beast? Xiao Hua was stunned and asked curiously, is there anything in this world that you and I can't find? This demonic beast is the Great Sage Temple's black-armored Pentaceratops. The Grand Mist Ancestor did not hide anything and immediately answered. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, so it's Long Sheng. However, this Xiao doesn't understand. What kind of talent does he have to be able to surpass our divine ability? Taoist Xiao, don't be anxious. The Grand Mist Ancestor waved his hand and said, this Xiao hasn't finished speaking. Taoist Xiao, please speak. Xiao Hua nodded. Long Sheng agreed readily, but when he heard that this Xiao and I were part of the human race, he went back on his word. After this Xiao persuaded him, he requested to invite another demonic beast. Only then did he agree to join forces with Xiao and me. Chapter 47-24. Who? Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something and asked. Of course, it's the nether demonic dragon spider from the Great Sage Hall. Grand Mist Ancestor replied with a smile. 2 great sages from the demon race and 2 Taoist Grand Ascension stage cultivators from the human race. Only then can they trust each other. Haha, I understand now. Xiao Hua smiled at Grand Mist Ancestor and said, fellow Taoist Grand Mist, why are you still lying to me? Grand Mist Ancestor's smile disappeared and he asked awkwardly, Taoist Master Xiao, what do you mean? Fellow Taoist Grand Mist. Xiao Hua pointed with his finger and sighed. You must have looked for the spatial passage according to the Jade Eye after reading it. But you found that the spatial passage wasn't something you could find on your own. So you wanted to find someone to help you. Of course, I'm definitely not your first choice. Although I don't know why you chose the profound armored pentacorn dragon, but since you found it, he wouldn't agree to go with you so easily. He was also afraid that the spatial passage was fake, so he wanted to find someone to help him. Now that the demon race has 2 great sages, fellow Taoist, you're not happy about it. After some thought, you thought of me and sent me a message. In other words, I'm the most likely person to know about the spatial passage, right? Sigh. The Grand Mist Ancestor's face turned even more awkward as his thoughts were exposed. He smiled awkwardly and said, It's not that I want to hide it from you. I just want to find it first so that I can bargain with the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, and Dragon Island for better conditions for my Dao Gate. However, I found that the spatial passage requires Dragon Sage's divine ability to get close, so I had to discuss it with Dragon Sage. After that, Dragon Sage said that his divine ability wasn't good enough, and he needed Spider Sage's help. Of course, I wouldn't agree to go with the two great sages. So, I immediately thought of fellow Taoist. If you and I can find the spatial passage to the demon realm, won't our Tao sect have more bargaining chips? Won't we be able to save the billions of lives in the 3 continents? But, Xiaohua asked again, why are we the only 4 people who know about such a good thing? If we inform the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, or Dragon Island, won't more humans, demons, and dragons come? Won't our chances of finding the spatial passage be greater? The Grand Mist Ancestor was already prepared for this. He replied, there is a reason why I invited you here alone instead of informing the Immortal Palace. Oh, fellow Taoist, please speak. Xiaohua's tone was filled with surprise, but his heart was also sneering as he asked. First of all, I'm not sure about this space channel, and I haven't found it yet, so I can't inform the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect. The Grand Mist Ancestor didn't try to hide the truth from Huang Xiaolong. Secondly, this emperor has selfish motives. After all, the world-destroying strange worm is too powerful. Who knows when our 3 mainlands will be destroyed? I want to leave a way out for my sky-bearing palace and fellow Taoist Zhao's fortune gate. If the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Temple find out about this, how can you and I have a share in this? And fellow Taoist is right. Xiaohua nodded in agreement. Thirdly, the Grand Mist Ancestor continued, there's Devil Qi in the space tunnel. If the Immortal Palace and Thunder Temple knew about this, what would they think? They might think that this is our ambush and attack our Tao sect instead. Devil Qi? Xiaohua was taken aback and exclaimed, this Xiao understands now. You went to find the profound armored pentahorn dragon because of the Devil Qi, right? Not only that, the Grand Mist Ancestor said in a low voice, the space tunnel is located in a demon territory under the profound armored pentahorn dragon. Therefore, this emperor had no choice but to join hands with him. This Xiao understands now. Xiaohua nodded. When the Dragon Sage saw the Devil Qi, he knew that he couldn't pass through it with his own strength, so he wanted to pull the Spider Sage along, right? The Grand Mist Ancestor clapped. Fellow Taoist Zhao's foresight is amazing. Since there's Devil Qi, Xiaohua stroked his chin and thought to himself, this means that it might really be a space tunnel. Even if this space tunnel doesn't lead to the 10,000 demon world but the devil world, this Xiao should go and take a look. After all, there's a devil-resisting valley between the Dawn Rain mainland and the devil world. Xiaohua looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor and thought to himself, if there's really a space tunnel, then this Xiao has wronged the Grand Mist Ancestor. However, even if this is a trap, the Grand Mist Ancestor wants to use the Devil Qi to sneak attack this Xiao. Not to mention the Devil Qi, even if the profound armored pentahorn dragon, the Nether Devil Dragon Spider, and the Grand Mist Ancestor join hands, do you think this Xiao is afraid of you? Of course, this Xiao still has to guard against other tricks. Since Xiaohua had made up his mind, he smiled and said, I dare not say that I have foresight. Fellow Taoist Grand Mist being able to find the space tunnel to the 10,000 demon world is the main merit. What merit this emperor doesn't dare to ask for? The Grand Mist Ancestor waved his hand and said, this emperor is satisfied as long as this emperor can protect the sky-bearing palace. At this point, the Grand Mist Ancestor lowered his voice and said, also Taoist Xiao, this emperor and Taoist Xiao arranged a different time than the profound armored pentahorn dragon. This time we are going to the 1,000 Demons sacred grounds to search for the space tunnel. Not only is the space tunnel dangerous, we don't know whether it leads to the 10,000 demon world or the devil world. Moreover, the most dangerous thing is the 2 great sages from the Great Sage Hall. Those who are not of our race will definitely have different intentions. They are of the demon race, and in their eyes humans are food and ants. Moreover, you and I are in charge of the Tao Gate. If they want to destroy the Tao Gate, they can just kill the 2 of us. Therefore, we have to be on guard. And is this the reason why fellow Taoist asked this Xiao to come alone? Xiaohua asked with a smile. The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and did not answer. Instead, he asked a question. Daoist Xiao is the dragon race's dragon master, the immortal palace's lightning master, and also the Thunder Sound Temple's Namo merciful great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Of course, you are not afraid of immortal Emperor Gaochen or Vairocana Buddha, but this emperor has to be on guard. Fellow Taoist Grand Mista, only now did I realize that you are also on guard against this Xiao. Xiao Hua asked meaningfully. This Xiao does not have any title in the Great Temple, but you actually found 2 great sages from the Great Temple as helpers. When the Grand Mist Ancestor heard this, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, Taoist Xiao is thinking too much. This emperor definitely did not have such thoughts. This is definitely a coincidence. Forget it, forget it. Xiao Hua said disapprovingly. This Xiao is just joking. You and I are both of the human race. Could it be that this Xiao would believe that there is a dragon race and a demon race? Of course. The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed and said, otherwise, why would this emperor invite Taoist Xiao over for help? After saying this, the Grand Mist Ancestor looked left and right again and transmitted his voice. Let's discuss how to deal with the danger of the 2 great sages, shall we? Okay. Xiao Hua nodded and sat down cross-legged. The Grand Mist Ancestor also sat down on the ground and then took out a jade eye and handed it to Xiao Hua. The jade eye I gave Taoist Xiao earlier was not complete. This is the complete one. Taoist Xiao, please take a look. Xiao Hua took the jade eye and looked at it for a moment. After a while, he returned it to the Grand Mist Ancestor and said with a smile, this is no different from the previous one. It just has more information about the 10,000 demon realm. It is of no help in finding and passing through the space channel. The Grand Mist Ancestor's face was full of black lines. He took the jade eye and said with a bitter smile, Taoist Xiao is thinking too much. A space channel is a space channel. As long as you know the location, it is enough. How can the jade eye record the method to pass through the space channel? Then can this Xiao also understand it this way? Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and asked, this space channel is very likely to have nothing to do with the 10,000 demon realm. It is just that the channel and the 10,000 demon realm's magnetism are recorded in the same jade eye? And Taoist Xiao is right. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded. This emperor also had this guess before. However, this emperor and Taoist Xiao have different thoughts. This emperor does not need any magnetism, nor do I need to go to the 10,000 demon realm. This emperor only needs a space channel to go out of the 3 mainlands. In the future, if Taoist Xiao, this emperor says, this emperor, don't laugh at this emperor. If this space channel is real, this emperor will first take the Sky-bearing Palace's disciples and escape from the 3 mainlands. In fact, this is the real reason why this emperor did not tell the Immortal Palace and Thunder Sound Temple. There wasn't much disdain on Xiao Hua's face. After all, he also had the same plan. However, the Grand Mist Ancestor's sincere words made Xiao Hua's vigilance decrease slightly. He nodded and said, I won't hide it from fellow Taoist Grand Mist. To tell you the truth, this Taoist is not at ease with you. What metal, wood, and magnetism at this time, this Xiao doesn't put them in my eyes. If it were not for the life and death of my Fortune Gate's disciples, this Xiao would not have come here. Good. The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, as long as we have the same goal, it is excellent. This emperor does not ask for any good changes in your eyes. This emperor only asks that we find a good way out for our disciples. Problem is, Xiao Hua changed the topic, the profound armored pentaceratops and nether demonic dragon spiders. Do they know? Their descendants are innumerable. Seeing that he had gained Xiao Hua's trust, a smile appeared on the Grand Mist Ancestor's face. He said, this is something that can't be helped. After all, we need their help. Fortunately, they are from the demonic beast race. Although they have countless descendants, they have never been interested in them. The number of people they want to take away is less than the number of disciples of my sky-bearing palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor said enviously, this emperor does not have Taoist Zhao's Kunlun mirror, so this emperor cannot bring them into the Kunlun immortal realm. This emperor can only bring them one by one. If Taoist Grand Mist trusts this Xiao, you can bring the sky-bearing palace's disciples into this Zhao's Kunlun mirror. When this Xiao finds a safe place, this Xiao will release all of you. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. How could the Grand Mist Ancestor put his life and the sky-bearing palace's disciples in Xiao Hua's hands? He looked at Xiao Hua and smiled faintly. Taoist Xiao, let's discuss some practical matters. These two demonic beast race great sages are definitely not good people. All right. Xiao Hua nodded and began to discuss with the Grand Mist Ancestor. However, half a day later Xiao Hua lost interest. The more the Grand Mist Ancestor talked, the more he seemed to be prepared to kill the two great sages of the Great Holy Hall. After another hour, Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Taoist Grand Mist Ancestor, can you still happily discuss with this Emperor I? Although you didn't say it clearly, this is clearly a plan to kill them, to silence them. This Xiao cannot do it. I, O Taoist Xiao. The Grand Mist Ancestor slapped his forehead as if he had just woken up. He cried out, this Emperor forgot that you are the Buddhist sect's Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. This Emperor's ordinary plan in your eyes is despicable. The Grand Mist Ancestor's tone was full of sarcasm, but Xiao Hua still insisted, no matter what you think, I do not care. If you want to discuss precautions, this Xiao can continue. If Taoist wants to burn the bridge after crossing the river, and take the opportunity to kill the two great sages in the space tunnel, this Xiao has nothing in common with you. Problem is, the Grand Mist Ancestor really couldn't understand Xiao Hua's thoughts and said angrily, you and I don't plan, but the profound armored Pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider are planning. Isn't this the reason why the profound armored Pentaceratops summoned the netherworld demonic dragon spider? AI, other people are other people. Xiao Hua sighed and said, this Xiao is this Xiao. What other people think, this Xiao does not care. However, this Xiao has a conscience and this Xiao disdains. Humph. The Grand Mist Ancestor snorted coldly and closed his eyes to meditate. It really had the meaning of, those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. The Grand Mist Ancestor sneered, and Xiao Hua also sneered in his heart. If it wasn't for the matter with Prince Lan, Xiao Hua might have trusted the Grand Mist Ancestor and thought that he was looking for a way out for the Sky-bearing Hall, Dao Gate, and the three mainlands. However, with Prince Lan's betrayal and Chong Yu's death, how could Xiao Hua not be vigilant? In Xiao Hua's eyes, the Grand Mist Ancestor's every action was suspicious. Behind this disguise, there was naturally the Grand Mist Ancestor's sinister intention to kill Xiao Hua along with the two great saints. The awkward silence between the two Dao Gate's Grand Ascension stage experts directly affected the space within several hundred li of the Thousand Demons' sacred grounds. The sun that was rising in the sky began to turn cold, and faint dark clouds began to gather in the surroundings. Half a day later, a continuous rain began to fall. This time it didn't matter, but a few days later torrential rain poured down. Lines of rain pierced through heaven and earth and completely covered the left side of the mountain peak. The raindrops were like silk sparkling brightly. Even in the dark night, there was a faint brilliance to them. Naturally, Xiao Hua and the Grand Mist Ancestor weren't afraid of the rain. When the rain fell 1,000 zhang away from the Grand Mist Ancestor, it was immediately blocked by an invisible barrier and couldn't fall any further. The space around the Grand Mist Ancestor was only 1,000 zhang away from the Grand Mist Ancestor, and there wasn't a single drop of water on it. Even the mountain peak was abnormally dry. On the other hand, the place where Xiao Hua was sitting was filled with water, and the rain lines passed through Xiao Hua's body as if they were nothing. Even though the Grand Mist Ancestor didn't open his eyes, he could clearly see the phenomenon of Xiao Hua merging into the space around him. However, the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile, and he didn't take Xiao Hua's warning to heart. Another few days passed, and the rain didn't stop. Instead, it became even heavier. The sky was filled with dark clouds, and they covered the land like cotton wool. Floods erupted on the ground, and rumbling sounds began to fill the air. Not to mention the collapsed trees, even the nearby mountain peaks collapsed. Large pieces of rocks were washed down the mountain peaks by the flood, and they formed many mudslides. Seeing this, even though this place wasn't the hidden immortal mainland, Xiao Hua still released his divine sense, wanting to see if there were any demonic beasts in danger nearby. But right at this time, boom! A loud explosion sounded, and it was as if a lightning bolt fell from the sky, and it was as if a god had descended from the sky. Xiao Hua frowned slightly and looked up. He saw a brilliance like a pair of scissors falling from the sky in the north. As it flew, it cut through the horizon, and the dark clouds that covered the sky were split in half by this brilliance. At the same time, the rain that covered the ground was swept away by this brilliance. After the brilliance disappeared, the sky was filled with resplendent stars, and it looked extremely enchanting. The brilliance streaked across the sky like a meteor, and it was about to arrive in front of Xiao Hua and the Grand Mist Ancestor. At this time Xiao Hua could see clearly with his naked eye that under the brilliance, there was a huge black dragon wearing black armor. Wasn't that the profound armored pentahorn dragon? Behind the dragon, there was a cloud of ink-like black chi, and the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body was hidden within it, and they couldn't see it clearly. Swoosh! The profound armored pentahorn dragon stopped in midair, and the sky was filled with the sound of wind whistling. Behind the profound armored pentahorn dragon, waves of starlight mixed with some black dragon chi swayed in the air like the surface of a fan, and rushed into the distance. Wherever the brilliance passed, the dark clouds and falling rain were swept away. The moment the profound armored pentahorn dragon appeared, the torrential rain that had wreaked havoc for many days came to a stop. Seeing the profound armored pentahorn dragon's magnificent appearance, the Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes narrowed slightly, and he stood up from the incomparably dry mountain peak. He flew high into the sky and laughed loudly, "Ha-ha. People often say that the Dragon Saint is the best at summoning clouds and summoning rain among the dragon race. Now it seems that the name is true. We have been drenched by the rain on this mountain peak for several days, and the moment the Dragon Saint arrives, the heavens and clouds immediately disperse." The profound armored pentahorn dragon's body coiled, and a layer of black halo emerged from its dragon scales. It was like black ink that seeped into the void nearby, and what was special was that within the dragon scales, there were faint dragon patterns formed by devil chi that floated on the profound armored pentahorn dragon's body. The profound armored pentahorn dragon looked coldly at the Grand Mist Ancestor, and asked in a thunderous voice, "Who did you hear that from?" The Grand Mist Ancestor's words were polite, and if it was a human, they would definitely be modest. This way their relationship would be closer, and as a member of the dragon race, the profound armored pentahorn dragon might not be unaware of the human's etiquette, but it just so happened that it did not give the Grand Mist Ancestor any face, and its words immediately tore apart the Grand Mist Ancestor's hypocrisy. The Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth wanting to say something, but the profound armored pentahorn dragon did not give him a chance. The profound armored pentahorn dragon's body flickered, and a human figure that was several times bigger than a hill appeared. The profound armored pentahorn dragon cupped its fists at Xiao Hua and said, "Greetings, Dragon Master Xiao." The Grand Mist Ancestor's cheeks bulged, and it was obvious that he was gnashing his teeth in hatred. Xiao Hua smiled faintly and returned the profound armored pentahorn dragon's greeting, "Greetings, Dragon Saint. I didn't expect to see the Dragon Saint again so soon after we parted at the Jade Lake." Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a tip, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 47-25. Haha. The Pentaceratops dragon roared with laughter. "Longsher Xiao cares about the lives of the world and travels between the holy grounds. You and I will meet him sooner or later. Moreover, Longsher Xiao's name of Nanwaguanin Bodhisattva is well known by everyone in the world. Even the demonic beasts in our Thousand Beasts holy grounds give him a thumbs up whenever he is mentioned. Oh, don't you humans have a saying that goes, 'Who in the world doesn't know the ruler?' Longsher Xiao is like the sun in the midday sky." As the Pentaceratops dragon spoke, he glanced at the Grand Mist Ancestor. By this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor had already regained his composure. There was a smile on his face as he stood at the side, oblivious to the Pentaceratops dragon's words. "Greetings, Longsher Xiao." The nether demonic dragon spider did not miss the opportunity to approach Xiao Longsher. The several tentacles waved, and the arms formed from them greeted Xiao Longsher like a human. This was Xiao Hua's first time seeing the nether demonic dragon spider. Even though Feng Wu had already transmitted the appearance of the nether demonic dragon spider to Xiao Hua when they met, Xiao Hua was still astonished when he saw a gigantic black spider emitting the aura of the netherworld and an indescribable dragon aura. With a smile on his face, Xiao Hua cupped his fists and said, "Spider Saint, this Xiao has also heard of your name for a long time. Previously, when we were at the Dragon Island's Dragon Hall, the Great Elder even said that if this Xiao were to meet Spider Saint, he must first ask Spider Saint a question. The nether demonic dragon spider was stunned. He looked at the Pentaceratops dragon and asked, "What question does Longshore want to ask this Spider Saint?" "Naturally, it's about how to kill the world-exterminating mayflies." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "This Xiao does not know what Spider Saint's true form is. But this Xiao and Grand Elder also understand that Spider Saint is the world-exterminating mayflies heaven and earth. If Spider Saint has any secret art or method that can kill the world-exterminating mayflies and save the lives of the 3 mainlands, please do not hesitate to enlighten me." This Xiao thanks Spider Saint on behalf of the millions of lives. As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his hand and saluted. At this moment, Xiao Hua was a Grand Ascension Stage Taoist as well as a Supreme of the Taoist Gate. His status was comparable to immortal Emperor Go Chan, the first elder of Dragon Island, and the Virokana revered one. In terms of reputation, he was far above everyone else. Xiao Hua's salute made the nether draconic spider feel extremely flattered. The nether draconic spider's body was overflowing with nether energy. Its human form had already collapsed. Several of its tentacles fluttered in a flurry, wanting to support Xiao Hua. Its black mouth even stuttered. Master Draconic, you are too kind. I really don't know what to do. Ahem." The Pentaceratops coughed and smiled bitterly. "Dragon Master Xiao, you're being too polite. If Spider Saint had any tricks up his sleeve, he would have told Rock Saint and Phoenix Saint long ago. He wouldn't have come here only today to find a way out for us." Yes. The nether draconic spider hurriedly replied. "Logically speaking, those strange insects are from the insect race, and I should be their nemesis. However, I've seen them a few times in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, and they couldn't sense my presence at all. Facing their power, this saint also doesn't have any good ideas." The nether draconic spider gradually calmed down from its flattered state, and the way it addressed itself also changed from "I" to "this saint." Xiao Hua smiled. He wasn't asking the nether draconic spider for a way to exterminate the mayflies. He was clearly giving the nether draconic spider a chance. Xiao Hua had already learned from Feng Wukong that the netherworld demonic dragon spider was the weakest of the 7 great sages. Furthermore, it had always been following the lead of the profound armored pentagonal dragon. If one were to talk about its roots, it was not a particularly hidden great sage. In particular, now that they were about to fight against the world-destroying mayflies, a great saint of the demon race would play a very important role. Xiao Hua didn't want the 3 continents to lose a great saint because of some blind obedience. Unfortunately, from the nether draconic spider's tone, Xiao Hua already knew that the nether draconic spider had made a choice. Right now, he could only hope that this search for the space channel wasn't a conspiracy. No matter. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Since there's no Xiantian method, we'll fight with our lives. I believe that there's always a way out." Good. The Grand Mist Ancestor finally found his sense of existence and hurriedly clapped his hands. This emperor admires Taoist Zhao's unyielding spirit. This emperor? Unfortunately, before the Grand Mist Ancestor could finish speaking, the Pentaceratops glared at him and interrupted him coldly. "What kind of this emperor are you? This saint can't stand old Gauchen calling himself this emperor. If you continue to show off, this saint and the Spider Saint will immediately turn back." The Grand Mist Ancestor's face was a little green and red, but after a while he smiled and said, "Since Dragon Sage doesn't like the way we humans address you, then I won't say it. Dragon Sage can't give up this opportunity just because of some small mistakes of mine, right? That place is really inappropriate." When the Pentaceratops heard this, a trace of worry appeared on its face. This saint didn't think that there would be a spatial passage to the 10,000 demon realm in the ordinary demon realm. And, to be honest, this saint doesn't think that it's a spatial passage. In fact, this saint thinks that even if there is a spatial passage, it's going to the demon realm. But, the Grand Mist Ancestor laughed. "If it's going to the demon realm, then there should be demon clan members around the passage, right? And our 3 continents haven't seen any demon clan members for so many years. Didn't you also not see the spirit clan in the 10,000 demon realm?" The nether demon dragon spider hurriedly retorted, "How can you say that it's going to the 10,000 demon realm? Just based on the records in the Jade Eyes? I'm not going to say anything. The Grand Mist Ancestor was forced to shut up by the two Demon Clan Great Saints. Dragon Sage has already been there, but the Spider Saint hasn't. Oh, Taoist Xiao hasn't been there either. Let's wait for the four of us to take a look. Lead the way. The Pentaceratops ordered domineeringly. The Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. He glanced at Xiao Hua faintly, then urged his body to turn into a black-white rainbow and soared into the sky. Dragon Sage Xiao, please. The Pentaceratops dragon smiled and raised his hand, indicating Xiao Hua to go first. Xiao Hua nodded and said, Dragon Sage. Thank you. But as he spoke, lightning flashed around his body and whistled through the air. Xiao Hua moved. The Pentaceratops dragon glanced at the nether demon dragon spider and turned back into its dragon form. Its pitch-black dragon body shook its head and wagged its tail. In the blink of an eye, it covered 100 li. The nether demon dragon spider's tentacles danced in the air, and clouds of devilish mist appeared as it chased after Xiao Hua. After flying for half a day, Xiao Hua saw an abyss-like place abruptly appear in the forest in the distance. Xiao Hua scanned it with his divine sense and immediately understood. He stopped and turned around to send a voice transmission. Dragon Sage, is this the place where the world-destroying ephemera attacked? Seeing that Xiao Hua had stopped, the Grand Mist Ancestor naturally stopped in front of him. The Pentaceratops dragon's divine sense swept over and nodded, yes, it's impossible for there to be such a big abyss in an ordinary place. This place can only be created by killing the ephemera. Strange. Xiao Hua rubbed his chin and asked in confusion, this Xiao has never seen the ephemera attack in the Western Paradise, but this Xiao has encountered them several times in the hidden immortal mainland. When they attacked cultivators and humans, they only scraped the ground 3 feet deep. They didn't create such a big hole. This. The Pentaceratops dragon obviously hadn't thought of this problem. He pondered for a moment and looked at the nether demon dragon spider. The nether demon dragon spider also shook its head and said, this holy sage has never been to the Western Paradise, so I don't know what kind of strange insects are there. However, this holy sage is very clear that when the strange insects attack in the Thousand Demons' sacred territory, not only will the demons in the demon domain be annihilated, but the demon domain itself will also be destroyed, just like what Dragon Sage Xiao is seeing now. Taoist Master Xiao, the Grand Mist Ancestor said with a smile, it's actually very simple, because the quality of the soil in the Thousand Demons' sacred territory is completely different from the hidden immortal mainland and the Western Paradise. This is the demon race's holy land. Didn't you see the demon fruits and demon herbs here? When sent to the hidden immortal mainland, they are all things that everyone wants? If it wasn't for the spiritual qi in the Thousand Demons' sacred territory, how could such fruits grow? The strange insects like to devour things that contain spiritual qi, so the Thousand Demons' sacred territory's soil naturally includes them. In addition, I also carefully read the information from the Western Paradise. The Western Paradise is different from the hidden immortal mainland. Let's not talk about the cultivators. They are all the targets of the strange insects. But what about the ordinary people? In the Western Paradise, no matter if they are women, children, old or old, they all worship Buddha. They are born with the root of wisdom, and their bones also have the light of Buddha. Therefore, most of the people that the strange insects attack in the Western Paradise are ordinary people. As for the hidden immortal mainland, other than Confucian cultivators and scholars, most of them are ordinary people with no achievements. These people have no spiritual qi, and instead become the lucky ones. The world-destroying strange insects usually don't attack them. Hearing this, Xiao Hua nodded inwardly. Recently he came and went in a hurry. Even Princess Zixia didn't have the time to carefully study the information from the 3 continents. Naturally, she wouldn't have the same speculation as the Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiao Hua thought to himself, although the Grand Mist Ancestor is quite scheming and vengeful, he is after all an ambitious and ruthless person. In many aspects this Xiao Hua is inferior. If this kind of person is killed, it would be a pity. While Xiao Hua was deep in thought, the Grand Mist Ancestor urged him again, Taoist Xiao, we should hurry. The Pingyi demon territory is right in front of us. The sooner we arrive, the sooner we can find a way out. Xiao Hua nodded. He wanted to release the Netherworld Origin Force to collect the demon race's souls, But because of the netherworld demonic dragon spider beside him, Xiaohua was afraid that the Grand Mist Ancestor would discover his secret. The demon territory mentioned by the Grand Mist Ancestor was extremely far away. The two human races' Grand Ascension Stage experts and the two demon races' Great Sage experts spent several days to reach it. On this day it was already noon. On the other side of the land, a strange demon territory appeared in Xiaohua's divine sense. The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, "Taoist Master Xiao, the demon territory of Pingyi is just ahead." Oh! Hearing this, Xiaohua's brows furrowed slightly. His divine sense carefully scanned the surroundings. This demon territory of Pingyi was different from the other demon territories that Xiaohua had seen before. The other demon territories of Pingyi were either covered in high mountains or dense ponds. There were also places with splendid flowers or forests with demonic fruits. However, this demon territory of Pingyi's was filled with hills and ponds. What was special was that regardless of whether it was the hills or ponds, there was a kind of black silk floating above them. This black silk seemed to be devil qi, but it also contained a kind of extreme coldness. A layer of grayish-black frost could be vaguely seen under the black silk. Even when the noon sun shone on the black silk, it couldn't melt the frost in the slightest. Roar! As if sensing that someone was flying close, a violent aura rushed out from the distance. A furious roar like a beast's roar sounded like a drum. Humph! The profound armored pentahorn dragon snorted coldly. It didn't need to reply. The pentahorn dragon stretched out its body, and the aura of a great sage covered the sky. It immediately scattered the demonic beast's aura, and at the same time the roar was silenced this place. The Grand Mist Ancestor didn't care about these details. He turned around and rushed towards the direction where the black qi was getting denser. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua and the others arrived in the air above a medium-sized valley. This valley was formed by dozens of hills, and in the middle of this valley, there was a pool of water that was dozens of li wide. In the air above the pool, strands of yuan energy condensed into hair-like ice shards that fell into the pool with a shwa-shwa sound. The originally scorching sunlight shone on the space around the pool, turning it pale white. At the place where the ice shards fell, there were hundreds of millions of black qi that were like devil claws in the pool. They crazily reached into the air and gradually disappeared. Around the pool, not only was there not a single blade of grass, but every inch of the ground was covered with thumb-sized black soil. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across the pool, and a strange expression appeared on his face. When his divine sense reached into the pool, he was shocked. This was because the pool wasn't deep. It was only a few hundred meters deep, and the bottom of the pool was piled up with huge black rocks. When Xiaohua's divine sense passed through the rocks and probed for another 1,000 meters, he discovered that there were many spatial cracks that looked like honeycombs. When Xiaohua's divine sense fell into these spatial cracks, it was unexpectedly devoured. It wasn't strange for ordinary spatial cracks to devour a cultivator's divine sense, but how could a Grand Ascension Stage Taoist's divine sense be so easily devoured? Xiaohua's expression changed, and he understood why the Grand Mist Ancestor wanted to find the profound armored pentahorn dragon. It was because a large amount of scarlet devil qi was emerging from the spatial cracks. The Grand Mist Ancestor stopped, and the black and white halos around his body flickered like flowers blooming and withering. The black qi that covered the sky fell into the halos and disappeared without a trace. The Grand Mist Ancestor glanced at Xiaohua and pointed at the pool. "Taoist Master Xiao, I'm sure you've discovered the danger within? When I came to investigate that day, I didn't even go 1,000 meters deep, and a large amount of devil qi gushed out. I's divine sense couldn't go beyond 1,000 meters, and my heart was filled with apprehension. After another 1,000 meters, although the devil qi decreased, the spatial cracks increased again. I saw that I had exhausted too much of my origin energy, and I didn't dare to go any deeper. That was why I went to seek help from the dragon sage." The profound armored pentahorn dragon looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor with disdain. "You're also a Grand Ascension Stage Taoist. Yet you're still so cowardly. You only explored 1,000 meters, and you hurriedly returned." "Dragon Sage." The Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't help but retort. "You don't seem to be much stronger than I, right? You only went 1,000 meters deep, and didn't you also stop? You turned around to look for the spider sage. Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? How can this holy sage be the same as you? The profound armored pentahorn dragon roared. This holy sage saw that the void passage is like a maze, and not only is there devil chi, there's also netherworld chi, and there's also an indescribable aura. Your jade pupil didn't give you any specific instructions to go to the 10,000 demon world. This holy sage thought that the nether demonic dragon spider was born with the ability to find directions in the void. And that's why I went to look for him. Ta! The Grand Mist Ancestor was stunned. Didn't you say? What? This holy sage was just joking with you. The profound armored pentahorn dragon laughed and said, if it's just devil chi and netherworld chi, why would the spider sage come? This holy sage can handle it alone. The Grand Mist Ancestor narrowed his eyes, and there was a hint of anger in his eyes. He even looked at Xiao Hua as if he was hinting at something. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua turned a deaf ear to the Grand Mist Ancestor's hint. Instead, he pinched his chin and asked the black-armored Pentaceratops, Dragon Sage, if it is as you said, this place is not simply a spatial crack, but a spatial cracks hub that leads to otherworld surfaces, right? Indeed. The profound armored pentahorn dragon nodded and said, in the void, this holy sage is like a headless fly, so this holy sage doesn't dare to casually enter, so I can only look for the spider sage. The profound armored pentahorn dragons casually was naturally for the Grand Mist Ancestor to hear. The Grand Mist Ancestor was a little angry, but when he heard that the profound armored pentahorn dragon was also afraid of him, his anger dissipated by more than half. Dragon Sage. The Grand Mist Ancestor said sincerely, I know that you and even Daoist Shao doesn't have a good impression of I. But at this time, at this critical moment of life and death for ourselves, for our disciples, we should temporarily put aside the previous estrangement. This place is not only a spatial tunnel, but also a hub. We must work together to find a way out. Dragon Sage. Xiao Hua also said seriously, in the three mainlands, it's normal for us to have some grudges, and disputes are nothing. Now that we are working together to find a way out, we must do as fellow Taoist Grand Mist said, we must not have any disloyalty. What? Seeing that Xiao Hua also spoke, the profound armored pentahorn dragon's anger rose, and he said, Dragon Master Xiao also wants to teach this holy sage a lesson. Dragon Sage. Not far from the two people and one dragon, the netherworld demonic dragon spider had not spoken since he arrived. Several of his tentacles moved in the air, and strands of netherworld aura emerged from his tentacles, falling into the pond like needles. Occasionally, the dragon marks on the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body would also flicker with dragon chi, falling along with the netherworld aura. At this time, the netherworld demonic dragon spider suddenly exclaimed, the netherworld aura here doesn't seem to be the real netherworld aura. Is it? The profound armored pentahorn dragon didn't have time to talk to Xiao Hua, and he flew over and asked, what's the difference? The netherworld demonic dragon spider pondered for a moment, then shook his head slightly. This holy sage can't say. Seems. This netherworld aura is mixed with something. If it's devil chi, it's not. If it's origin energy, it also doesn't seem like it. Spider sage, did you forget? Grand Mist Ancestor said with a smile, this space passage can lead to the 10,000 demon realm. This aura is naturally the aura of the 10,000 demon realm. The netherworld demonic dragon spider still shook his head. This holy sage has never been to the 10,000 demon realm, and I don't know the situation of the 10,000 demon realm. Of course I can't tell. That's right. The profound armored pentahorn dragon also spoke at this time. This holy sage also feels that there's a strange aura in this devil chi. Previously I suspected that it might be the 10,000 demon realm spiritual energy. Now it seems that it is. Spider Sage, inside this space passage you can't imagine. There are countless cracks like a huge maze. Once we're inside, this holy sage will rely on you. Rest assured, Dragon Sage. The netherworld demonic dragon spider laughed. This holy sage will definitely not let you down. Dragon Sage. Grand Mist Ancestor urged in a low voice, let's go in. Okay. The profound armored pentahorn dragon responded, its body emitting a black brilliance. Then, layers of dragon patterns flowed like flowing lights. Roar! The profound armored pentahorn dragon's dragon head also emitted a 5-colored brilliance. The brilliance was like a flower blooming, enveloping the dragon's entire body. The other end of the brilliance crashed into the pool, but the brilliance did not cause any ripples. Instead, it created circles of light like a whirlpool. The profound armored pentahorn dragon let out a low roar. Its dragon body curled up and crashed into the ring of light. The moment its huge dragon body entered the ring of light, it turned into a shadow and disappeared in a moment. Seeing that the dragon sage had entered the pool, the spider sage did not dare to delay. The two tentacles in front of his head waved hurriedly. Two streams of black devil chi rushed out, protecting the spider sage's body. The devil chi flew along with the spider silk, turning into the image of a demonic dragon, rushing into the pool. Humph! Grand Mist Ancestor snorted when he saw the two demonic races' great saints entering the pool. He lowered his voice and said, Daoist Shao, along the way, you saw that I have been enduring. I am a human, you know, a human has no intention of harming a tiger, but a tiger harms a human's heart. Grand Mist Ancestor did not say anything. Black and white brilliance surged around his body, and he also entered the pool. Xiaohua was not in a hurry. Instead, he pinched his chin and looked at the calm pool. After pondering for a moment, his figure turned into a gust of wind, entering the pool, descending to the bottom. Just like what he saw with his divine sense, the pool was only a few hundred feet deep, but there was already a lot of devil chi rushing out, permeating 100 miles underground. Lightning flashed around Xiaohua's body, and any devil chi that came close to him was destroyed by the lightning. The billowing devil chi could not get close to him. However, as Xiaohua went deeper, his divine sense was gradually restricted, and the devil chi corroded and swallowed the divine sense he released. Xiaohua did not dare to let down his guard. After another 1,000 feet, the profound armored pentagonal dragon, nether demonic dragon spider, and Grand Mist Ancestor's figures appeared again. They really stopped outside a huge devil chi whirlpool. Seeing Xiaohua enter, Grand Mist Ancestor pointed at the devil chi whirlpool and said, Daoist Shao, this is the entrance to the space tunnel. After entering, there is a void crack. Since there is devil chi, Xiaohua smiled and said, then I will have to trouble Dragon Sage to make a move. Not a problem. The profound armored pentagonal dragon smiled faintly, and the dragon horn on its head emitted a black brilliance. Then the dragon's body suddenly expanded. Boom boom. Dozens of moonlight pillars fell from the void, and as the moonlight pillars smashed into the profound armored pentagonal dragon's body, the devil chi on the dragon's black scales began to flow rapidly. Puff. When the dragon pattern surged to the profound armored pentagonal dragon's head, the dragon horn's brilliance was extremely bright. The profound armored pentagonal dragon opened its mouth again, and a mouthful of dragon breath like a heavenly river rushed out from its mouth, crashing into the devil chi whirlpool. Buzz buzz. When the dragon breath fell into the devil chi, it did not cause an explosion like water and fire. Instead, it blended like water and milk, and the dragon breath quickly entered the devil chi. Roar. The profound armored pentagonal dragon let out a low roar, and the nearby space trembled. Then the profound armored pentagonal dragon's dragon claw reached into the devil chi whirlpool, and the whirlpool that could devour divine sense suddenly swayed. For rays of light rushed out from the dragon claw and entered the whirlpool. Open. The profound armored pentagonal dragon let out another low roar and raised its dragon claw. Rip. A clear sound like silk being torn apart sounded, and the devil chi whirlpool was actually torn apart by the dragon claw. 1,000 zhang long space crack appeared in front of Xiaohua and the others. Go. The Grand Mist Ancestor shouted again, and took the lead to fly into the space crack. As the Grand Mist Ancestor's figure entered the space crack, devil chi rushed out from the space crack again, as if it was caused by the Grand Mist Ancestor's fall. Dragon Sage Shao, go first. The nether demonic dragon spider glanced at the space crack and reminded, the devil chi this time is different. It seems to counter the Dragon Sage's devil chi. If the Dragon Sage can't hold on, this Dragon Sage can take over. Okay. Xiaohua did not stand on ceremony. He secretly circulated his true essence, and his figure blurred as he charged into the space crack. Xiaohua was naturally extremely vigilant. Lightning rays appeared on the surface of his body like needles, and if he discovered any abnormality, Xiaohua's fury of thunder would be activated without hesitation. Unfortunately, after crashing into the space crack, Xiaohua was once again in a pitch-black space. Although his divine sense could not extend very far, Xiaohua could see clearly that the Grand Mist Ancestor was standing far away, looking at the billowing devil Qi in a daze. Fellow Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiaohua was a little puzzled, and he asked through voice transmission, "What are you doing?" "There are some changes to this spatial tunnel." The Grand Mist Ancestor pointed at a spot not far from him and said, "When this humble Taoist came here previously, there was a simple spatial tunnel here. There wasn't much devil Qi inside. And that place, looking in the direction the Grand Mist Ancestor pointed, Xiaohua saw a vague outline of space. That outline had already collapsed, and wisps of devil Qi rushed out from the collapsed space. That place is where I went to investigate, and now it has completely collapsed." The Grand Mist Ancestor said, "I suspect that after I left, the mystic armored Pentaceratops returned. Maybe." Xiaohua spat out these two words, and he released his divine sense to carefully observe the surging devil Qi and the so-called faint spiritual energy in the space crack. "Fellow Taoist Xiao." The Grand Mist Ancestor was a little unhappy, and he reminded Xiaohua through voice transmission, "At this time, are you still hoping for a fluke?" A trace of disgust appeared in Xiaohua's heart, and he withdrew his divine sense, and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Grand Mist, you and I came here to kill 2 demonic race great sages? Or to find a passage to the 10,000 demon world?" I understand Taoist's meaning." The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded thoughtfully, and replied, "Since that's the case, I won't mention it again." Boom boom. While the two of them were talking, the mystic armored Pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider rushed into the space crack, and the 2 demonic race great sages looked a little miserable. Behind them, the space crack had already closed, and sharp spatial wind blades rushed out from the sealed space, piercing in all directions. The mystic armored Pentaceratops just stood still, and he cried out in surprise, "Oh, where's the passage we entered last time? Is it here?" The netherworld demonic dragon spider pointed at the place where the Grand Mist Ancestor was facing and asked in a low voice, "You saw through it?" Not to mention the mystic armored Pentaceratops, even Xiaohua was shocked, and he looked at the netherworld demonic dragon spider thoughtfully. The netherworld demonic dragon spider nodded, and pointed one of its tentacles in front of its head, and said, "Yes, Dragon Sage. The whole space is constantly changing, this is constantly being squeezed. Over there, it's slowly dissipating and tearing apart." The nether demonic dragon spider pointed to another location and explained, "Earlier, the Grand Mist Ancestor and Dragon Saint arrived at a coincidental time and happened to see a spatial tunnel appear. And here, the space passage has already disappeared. If it appears again, it will lead to another direction." The Grand Mist Ancestor was dumbfounded, and he released his divine sense to check the space around him, and he asked in confusion, "Spider Sage, this space doesn't seem to be changing? How can you tell that it's changing?" Spider Sage smiled faintly and said, "Grand Mist Ancestor, you seem to have forgotten what this holy sage is, right? Netherworld demonic dragon spider." The Grand Mist Ancestor said half a sentence, and then he came to a realization. He looked at the netherworld demonic dragon spider's tentacles and laughed. "I understand now. Spider Sage is probably different from us. You don't rely on your eyes to see the surroundings, but on the several tentacles on your body, right?" "That's right." The netherworld demonic dragon spider nodded and said, "This holy sage's eyes actually can't see anything. This holy sage senses everything through my tentacles. Therefore, in this space, the naked eye, origin sense, and divine sense are useless, but this holy sage's tentacles can sense the changes in the wind, devil Qi, and netherworld Qi. Naturally, this holy sage knows the changes in this space." Sigh, no wonder Dragon Sage insisted on inviting Spider Sage here. The Grand Mist Ancestor sighed, then looked around and asked, "Then according to Spider Sage's knowledge, where should we go?" "Everyone, please wait a moment," the netherworld demonic dragon spider said, and its recovered body began to fly in all directions, and as it flew, the netherworld demonic dragon spider spread out several tentacles, exploring the space around it. After the time it took to eat a meal, the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body swayed, and it suddenly accelerated, then stopped not far from the previous space passage. Haha! The nether demonic dragon spider laughed heartily, and the 2 tentacles on both sides of its body stretched out. Whoosh! Not only did a shadow appear, but there was also a strange fluctuation mixed with the aura of the netherworld that fell into the space covered by the devil chi. Woo! Where the shadow landed, the devil chi was instantly dispelled, and then strange runes with frost could be seen behind the devil chi. These runes seemed to be natural, and they were linked together, sealing the space. However, there seemed to be some gaps between these runes, and the devil chi was seeping out from these gaps. And the netherworld demonic dragon spider's tentacles landed precisely on these gaps. Clang clang. Wherever the shadow landed, there was a sound of metal clanging, as if the tentacles were hitting a metal rock. That strange fluctuation was like a tadpole crashing into the rune. All of a sudden, a low rumbling sound came from the void. Amidst the rumbling sound, circles of arcs suddenly appeared where the nether demonic dragon spider's tentacles landed. Not only did they produce a rumbling sound, they also spread out in all directions. In just a short moment, they had actually completely covered the space in front of the nether demonic dragon spider's head. The demonic chi that had previously shrouded this space had now been dispelled, revealing the underground space and the arcs. Furthermore, the space under the arcs had condensed into a layer of silvery green. At this moment, the netherworld demonic dragon spider's tentacles finally landed, and with a series of clangs and clangs, a string of sparks flew. Damn it! The netherworld demonic dragon spider was a little embarrassed, and it cursed under its breath. Haha, Spider Saint! The Pentaceratops dragon sneered. You underestimate the natural restriction in this space too much. If it weren't for the strange restriction in this space, how could this saint have returned empty-handed last time? If it weren't for the fact that this saint wasn't confident, how could I have called you over? The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, Spider Saint, don't be anxious. The few of us don't have the ability to control space. Today, everything depends on Spider Saint. Spider Saint, you can take your time to break the restriction. After being mocked by the Pentaceratops dragon, the netherworld demonic dragon spider was originally embarrassed, and its tentacles had slowed down. Now that it heard the Grand Mist Ancestor's encouragement, a smile appeared on its face and it said, Many thanks for the encouragement, fellow immortal Grand Mist. This place is indeed a little strange. Let this saint take a look. I definitely won't disappoint fellow immortals and Dragon Saint. Immediately, the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body glowed with a dark green color, and the luster gradually gathered on its surface, condensing into the image of a demonic dragon. Roar! The demonic dragon let out a low roar, broke free from the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body, and pounced into the silver-green color that was as firm as a stick. Whoop! A strange sound emerged from the condensed space and spread in all directions. A strange light flashed through Xiaohua's eyes, and he looked at the space above with some surprise. The originally condensed space had already surprised Xiaohua, and now at the source of the sound, all kinds of runes began to flicker, and all kinds of fluctuations overflowed, forming an extremely complicated fluctuation that flooded the entire space. Gee! The netherworld demonic dragon spider also let out a sharp cry, and the four tentacles in front of it formed layers of afterimages in the air, and pierced into the silver-green color that had condensed space. Xiaohua could clearly see that the four tentacles were landing on four strange runes. Puff 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 puff. The four runes shattered at the place where the tentacles had landed, and like the wilting of flowers, they turned into strokes and fell down in the air. At the same time, from the place where the four runes shattered, another layer of dark green light emerged, spreading in all directions like a wave, and in an instant it covered an area of several dozen li. Haha. The netherworld demonic dragon spider laughed loudly and said, Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Dragon Sage, I'll go in first. Without waiting for the profound armored Pentaceratops to speak, the netherworld demonic dragon spider's tentacles waved, and its huge body crashed into the dark green light like a boulder thrown into a pool of water. Plop! A crisp sound rang out as the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body fell into the dark green light, and the dark green light actually faded like a pool of water. Seeing the netherworld demonic dragon spider's body fall into the dark green light, the Grand Mist Ancestor did not dare to delay. He glanced at Xiaohua and the profound armored Pentaceratops, and rushed into the dark green light as if he couldn't wait any longer. Puff! The Grand Mist Ancestor's body disappeared where the black and white light landed, and nothing strange happened. Dragon Sage Xiao, Seeing the netherworld demonic dragon spider and the Grand Mist Ancestor enter, the profound armored Pentaceratops solemnly said, "You go in first. This holy sage is afraid that the space will change again. This holy sage will go in last." "Alright, then I'll have to trouble Dragon Sage." Xiaohua nodded and formed a series of hand seals with his left hand. Lightning surged around his body as he charged into the space. Seeing Xiaohua's figure gradually disappear, the mystic Pentaceratops slightly raised its dragon claw, and the demonic aura around it surged. Within the space, the demonic aura that had been driven away by the nether demonic dragon spider also shook. But in the next moment, the profound armored Pentaceratops lowered its dragon claw, and its dragon body also flew into the dark green light. Although Xiaohua did not release his divine sense, he was already on high alert. When he flew into the dark green light, not only did his hands form hand seals, but he also circulated the true essence in his body, which was rare for him. The lightning on the surface of his body flowed up and down, and if there were any changes, he would immediately activate the hand of lightning and lightning escape. Fortunately, the light and shadow in front of his eyes didn't seem to be any abnormal fluctuations or overflow of magic power. Moreover, when Xiaohua rushed through this dark green light, a familiar green seal character aura faintly appeared again. After rushing through the dark green light barrier, a faint outline of the void appeared in front of him. The netherworld demonic dragon spider and the Grand Mist Ancestor had already blocked Xiaohua at the boundary of the space. "Oh, Spider Sage, fellow Taoist Grand Mist?" Xiaohua asked curiously with a smile on his face. "Is this the space hub you saw earlier?" The netherworld demonic dragon spider answered casually, then it came to a realization and hurriedly explained, "This sage has not been here before, but when this sage came in, this sage felt that this space hub was very strange." As it spoke, one of the netherworld demonic dragon spider's tentacles pointed into the distance and said, "Dragon Sage, please take a look. Although this space looks very weak, there seems to be a small legendary passage inside. If you rush in from here, you will definitely be transported out. As for where you will be transported to, no one knows. As for the other places, it seems to be much thicker than the place we came in from. Although this sage has the talent of space, I'm afraid that I can't break through it." "Is that so?" Xiaohua released his divine sense. Unfortunately, his divine sense was even more restricted than before. It could only be released for a few dozen zhang, and it was unable to go very far. "Not good," Xiaohua said in a low voice. "This Zhao's divine sense is actually restricted. This place is too strange." "Sage, no need to be so surprised." The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed. "When I came in, it was even worse. My divine sense could not leave my body, but looking at Sage's situation, I presume that you can leave your body, but it can't go very far, right?" "Indeed." Xiaohua looked around and smiled bitterly. "This space hub is so strange. We don't have any divine sense. What should we do?" "There's no other way." The Grand Mist Ancestor blinked his eyes at Xiaohua and smiled bitterly. "Now we can only rely on the Spider Sage's divine ability. It seems that even the Dragon Sage is extremely afraid of this place." You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.